In this video, we recap all the major battles, adventures, and twists from One Piece East Blue to Skypiea. The story starts with Gold Roger, the Pirate King, gained great wealth, fame, and power. Before he was executed, he told the crowd he had left his treasure somewhere in the world. Starting the Great Age of Pirates, the red-haired pirates came to Fuchsia Village. After a year, young Monkey D. Luffy tried to prove his bravery by stabbing under his left eye. At the bar, the pirates laughed and cheered for him. Luffy asked Shanks to let him join the crew, but Shanks refused because Luffy was too young and couldn't swim. Mountain bandits led by Higuma then entered the bar and demanded alcohol. Makino said the pirates had drunk it all. Shanks offered the last bottle, but Higuma smashed it on him. Shanks calmly cleaned up while Higuma caused more damage. Luffy got angry at Shanks for not fighting back. When he stormed out, Shanks catched Luffy's arm and stretch and realized he had eaten the devil fruit. Shanks told him his body was now rubber, but he would never be able to swim again. Later, while the pirates were gone, Higuma's gang returned. Luffy picked a fight and was kidnapped. Makino told Mayor Whoop Slap. Higuma planned to sell Luffy because of his strange body, but then decided to kill him. Before he could, Shanks and his crew showed up. When a bandit pointed a gun at Shanks, Lucky Roo shot him. Shanks said he could ignore insults, but never anyone hurting his friends. Ben Beckman beat the rest, but Higuma escaped with Luffy. He took him out to sea and threw him into the water. A Sea King appeared, ate Higuma, and attacked Luffy, but Shanks saved him and lost his left arm. Soon after, the red-haired pirates left Fuchsia Village. Luffy decided he would make his own crew, become stronger than Shanks, find the treasure, and become the Pirate King. Shanks gave Luffy his straw hat and told him to return it once he surpassed him. 10 years later, Luffy set out alone in a small boat. When the Lord of the Coast appeared again, he defeated it with Gomu Gomu no Pistol. As he drifted into the open sea, he dreamed of finding 10 crewmates, making his Jolly Roger and becoming the Pirate King. Luffy drifts at sea inside a barrel. Sailors from a passing cruise ship pull it aboard, but the ship is soon attacked by the pirate Alvida's crew. The barrel rolls into the kitchen. After the pirates destroy the ship's sails, they board to steal supplies, and Alvida forces her chore boy, Kobe, to join them. Meanwhile, a girl sneaks onto Alvida's ship to steal treasure. In the cruise ship's kitchen, Kobe and the pirates open the barrel and find Luffy inside, sleeping. Luffy easily defeats them, then eats the ship's food with Kobe. Luffy explains that his small boat was destroyed by a whirlpool, leaving him trapped in the barrel. Kobe says he was kidnapped by Alvida and forced to work for her, but dreams of joining the Marines. Alvida learns about Luffy and suspects he's a bounty hunter. She attacks him and Kobe, but Luffy defeats her crew. Her club doesn't hurt him because he ate a devil fruit that made his body like rubber. Luffy knocks her into the sea with his Gomu Gomu no Pistol. After the fight, Luffy and Kobe sail away together, spotting the same girl who robbed Alvida's ship, leaving on her own boat. Luffy sets his sights on the Grand Line and plans to recruit the pirate hunter Roronoa Zoro for his crew. They arrive at Shell's Town, home to a Marines base. There, they find Zoro tied to a cross. A little girl named Rika tries to give him onigiri but is stopped by Helmeppo, the arrogant son of Captain Morgan. He destroys her food, but Zoro later eats it anyway. Rika explains that Captain Morgan rules the town harshly and lets Helmeppo bully people. When Helmeppo brought a violent wolf into a bar, Zoro attacked him for his cruelty. To save the bar's people, Zoro turned himself in and was sentenced to 1 month tied up. Helmeppo later reveals he plans to execute Zoro early. Luffy punches him for lying, then goes to find Zoro's swords at the Marine base. As Morgan builds a huge statue of himself, Luffy accidentally destroys it while launching to the rooftop. He grabs Helmeppo and finds Zoro's swords while the same girl from before sneaks in to steal treasure. Kobe tries to free Zoro but is caught by Morgan, who orders his men to shoot, but Luffy blocks the bullets with his rubber body and returns the swords to Zoro. Zoro cuts himself free, fights back, and agrees to join Luffy if they survive Morgan attacks with his axe hand, but Luffy and Zoro easily defeat him. Helmeppo takes Kobe hostage, but Luffy punches him, and Zoro cuts Morgan down. The Marines, tired of Morgan's abuse, arrest him. Afterward, Luffy, Zoro, and Kobe celebrate in a restaurant. Kobe explains that the world is split by the Red Line, and the Grand Line runs across it, the sea where Gold Roger hid his treasure. The new base commander, Ripper, accepts Kobe into the Marines but orders Luffy and Zoro to leave town because they're pirates. He promises not to report them. Luffy and Zoro agree and set off together to continue their journey. Meanwhile, a girl sneaks into a Marine base looking for a map of the Grand Line. She learns that it was stolen by another pirate, Buggy. She sets out to find him and take it back. At sea, 3 of Buggy's pirates find her small boat pretending to be stranded. She tricks them with promises of treasure, boards their ship, and sails away while their boat sinks in a storm. Elsewhere, Luffy and Zoro sail together. When Luffy's straw hat falls off, Zoro retrieves it. Luffy then spots a giant bird and uses Gomu Gomu no Rocket to jump up toward it, but the giant bird grabs him and carries him away. The stranded Buggy pirates find Zoro's boat and try to steal it, but are easily defeated. They warn Zoro that Buggy is a dangerous pirate with devil fruit powers. After being shot down by cannon fire, the bird drops Luffy into Buggy's town, where he meets the girl thief, Nami. Together, they fight Buggy's men, escape, and rest at a restaurant. She introduces herself as a thief who steals from pirates. Nami reveals that she wants to gather 100 million berries and shows her navigation skills. Nami then betrays Luffy, tying him up and handing him to Buggy to earn his trust. Buggy locks Luffy in a cage and fires a Buggy Ball, a massive cannonball that blows up an entire row of houses. Zoro, seeing the explosion, rushes into town. Buggy orders Nami to fire another shot at Luffy, but she refuses and burns her hands. Buggy commands his men to attack, but Zoro arrives and fights Buggy, cutting off his limbs. Buggy's severed hand stabs Zoro from behind and reattaches. He reveals his Bara Bara no Mi power that lets him split and control his body parts wounded. Zoro redirects the cannon and blasts Buggy's crew with Nami's help. Zoro drags Luffy's cage to a pet shop, where they meet a dog named Choo Choo guarding his late owner's store. Nami finds the cage key, but Choo Choo eats it. Buggy sends his beast tamer Moji and his lion Richie to attack. Richie destroys the cage, freeing Luffy, but burns down the pet shop. Luffy defeats Moji and Richie and gives Choo Choo a saved box of food. Buggy, angry at Moji's failure, fires another Buggy Ball, destroying the mayor's house. The mayor, unhurt, decides to fight Buggy. Nami joins Luffy and Zoro to help him, but Luffy knocks the mayor out so he won't get hurt. Buggy fires again, but Luffy deflects the cannonball with his rubber body, blasting Buggy's crew. Only Buggy and his acrobat Kabaji survive. Kabaji challenges Zoro, using dirty tricks and attacking his wound, but Zoro defeats him with his onigiri attack before collapsing. While Zoro fights, Nami sneaks into Buggy's pub, knocks out a guard, and steals the Grand Line map. Meanwhile, Luffy battles Buggy, who splits his body to dodge attacks. Buggy damages Luffy's straw hat, enraging him. Luffy reveals its meaning, and Buggy admits his hatred for Shanks. Buggy explains they were once shipmates. He had planned to steal a treasure map and devil fruit, but accidentally ate the fruit when Shanks startled him, losing his ability to swim and his map. In the present, Buggy spots Nami and chases her for stealing his treasure, splitting into pieces with the Bara Bara no Mi. Luffy defeats him, while Nami ties up most of Buggy's body parts with rope. Luffy finishes him with Gomu Gomu no Bazooka, launching him out of town. Nami gives Luffy the Grand Line map, but keeps the treasure, agreeing to travel with him for now. The townspeople return, see the destruction, and mistakenly blame Luffy's group. Choo Choo stops them, and the crew escapes to the pier. The mayor wakes up, realizes Buggy is gone, and thanks the group as they sail off to Nami's shock. Luffy leaves the stolen treasure behind for the townspeople to rebuild. With no real ship, the crew sails to Syrup Village to find a better one before heading to the Grand Line. In the village, the prankster Usopp scares people by shouting that pirates are coming, but they chase him away when they see it's a lie. Soon after, one of the kids in his pretend pirate crew tells him that real pirates have arrived. Usopp and the kids go to the shore, but their tricks fail. Luffy sees through everything. Luffy then realizes Usopp is Yasopp's son, one of Shanks' crew. After they eat together, they visit the big hilltop mansion for help. Inside lives Kaya, a sick young woman protected by her butler Klahadore. Usopp is her only friend, but Klahadore refuses to let him in because of his bad reputation. Usopp sneaks inside anyway, and Luffy's crew follows. Klahadore catches them, throws them out, and insults Usopp and Yasopp for being pirates. Later, Klahadore acts kind to Kaya and says he only wants to protect her. Kaya believes him. Meanwhile, outside town, a strange man named Django shows off his hypnosis, and even hypnotizes himself by accident. Usopp and Luffy talk about Yasopp on a cliff, but they soon see Klahadore secretly meeting Django. They overhear the truth. Klahadore is actually Captain Kuro of the Black Cat Pirates, and he plans to kill Kaya and steal her fortune by having Django hypnotize her into changing her will. Django spots them and hypnotizes Luffy to sleep, making him fall off the cliff. Usopp runs away, but nobody believes his warning. The villagers chase him off, and Kaya refuses to trust him. When he tries to make her escape, her guards stop him. She slaps him, and her servant Mary even shoots him in the arm. That night, Kuro visits Kaya's room, breaks the glasses she made for him, shows his claws, and slashes Mary. The next morning at dawn, the Black Cat Pirates land. but they come from the North Shore, not the South. Luffy gets lost, and Zoro struggles climbing the slippery hill. Usopp tries to stop the pirates alone with his slingshot, and by offering Luffy's treasure to bribe them, but Nami stops him. The pirates keep advancing until Luffy and Zoro finally arrive to help. Kuro, furious that his crew is late, decides to kill his crew if his plan gets ruined. Django hypnotizes his crew to make them stronger, but he also hypnotizes Luffy by mistake. The overpowered Luffy defeats the pirates and even tears off the bow of their ship, then hypnotizes Luffy again, and Luffy collapses. Desperate, Django summons the Nyaban brothers, Sham and Buchi. They pretend to be weak but surprise Zoro, stealing 2 of his swords and slashing his chest. Usopp tries to help but accidentally hits Zoro instead. Nami tries to get the swords back, but is cut by Django's chakram. Back at the mansion, Kaya finds the wounded Mary, who tells her that Usopp was right. Klahadore is a pirate trying to kill her. Kuro arrives furious. Even his own crew fears him. Sham and Buchi insult him for becoming soft, so he uses his deadly Shakushi move, moving faster than the eye can see, and slashes them easily. He gives them 5 minutes to kill Zoro or die. Nami kicks Zoro's swords back to him, and Zoro, annoyed but thankful, defeats the Nyaban brothers with his Tatsumaki attack. Kuro keeps counting down the minutes as Usopp and the Black Cat pirate stare in shock at Zoro's powerful attack. Even Django is surprised, and Zoro tells Kuro he'll defeat him in less than 5 minutes. Kuro is slightly impressed. Buchi, still conscious, begs Django to hypnotize him to become stronger. Django agrees, and Buchi grows larger and wilder. Zoro prepares to fight him before facing Kuro. Meanwhile, Nami wakes Luffy, who is still asleep under the ship's figurehead. She stomps on his head to wake him, just in time for him to bite Django's deadly pendulum before it hits her. Seeing Luffy and Zoro's strength, the pirates start to panic. Nami faints, and Luffy notices her wound. She asks him to fight for the village and her treasure, and he agrees. The pirates flee in fear, and Luffy fights Django while Zoro battles Buchi. Kuro ends his countdown, ready to kill everyone. Shocked that Luffy survived the cliff fall before he can act, Kaya arrives and begs him to stop. When Kuro tries to attack her, Usopp saves her. Kaya offers him her fortune if he spares the village. But Kuro says he wants peace, not money, and that his crew will still destroy everything. Then Kaya points a gun at him, but he tricks her into lowering it, calling the last 3 years with her an insult to his pride. He grabs the gun and throws it down. Usopp picks it up and tries to shoot him, but Kuro uses his Shakushi speed to appear behind him. Before he can strike, Luffy hits Kuro with Gomu Gomu no pistol, knocking him to the ground. Luffy swears to make him pay for attacking his friends. Usopp's kid crew joins in to help. Wounded but determined, Usopp orders them to protect Kaya as they run. Meanwhile, Kuro orders Django to chase Kaya while he fights Luffy himself. Zoro tries to help Luffy but is stopped by the raging Buchi. Despite Buchi's strength, Zoro cuts him down with his 3 swords. Kuro mocks Usopp's weakness, but Luffy throws a boulder at his crew. Zoro, with Luffy's permission, goes after Django to help Kaya. Luffy and Kuro clash again. Kuro dodges Luffy's punches with his Shakushi speed. He admits he no longer wants to be a captain. He only wants a quiet life. In a flashback, Kuro remembers his plan. Years ago, he slaughtered a marine crew except for 1 soldier, then had Django hypnotize that soldier and one of his own men, and Kuro faked his death by sending a double to the Marines and allowing the real Kuro to live peacefully. Until now, in present, Luffy smashes the claws on Kuro's glove with the boulder. Luffy says his dream is greater than Kuro's fake peace. Meanwhile, the kids guide Kaya through the forest, hiding from Django. When she collapses from exhaustion, they try to trap Django, but their plan fails. Django threatens to kill them unless Kaya signs her will. She agrees, but before he can strike, Zoro and Usopp arrive to save her. At the coast, Kuro loses control, slashing wildly with his upgraded Shakushi Shushi attack that cuts everything in range, even his own crew. Luffy too is injured but endures. When Kuro attacks again, Luffy grabs him with his rubber arms, traps him, and ends the fight with Gomu Gomu no Cane, a massive headbutt that knocks him out. Luffy orders the remaining Black Cat pirates to leave the island and take Kuro with them. At the same time, Zoro and Usopp protect Kaya from Django. Zoro cuts down a branch so Usopp can use his Hasatsu, Kayaku Boshi, a slingshot blast that explodes in Django's face, defeating him. After this, Usopp asks the kids not to tell anyone about his heroics. Later, Usopp abandons their little crew of kids to become a real pirate. Afterwards, Kaya thanks the crew and gives them the Going Merry. As gratitude, Luffy's crew happily accepts and invites Usopp to join them. After they leave, Kaya and Merry recall Usopp's past. His father Yasopp left to sail with Shanks, and soon after, Usopp's mother died. Left alone, Usopp began lying to cheer himself up. pretending his father would return one day. Now the kids take his place as the town's pranksters, shouting that pirates are coming. Luffy sketches the crew's Jolly Roger, and Usopp proudly paints it onto the sails of their new ship, the start of the Straw Hat Pirates' true adventure. While sailing, Nami spots an island full of strange animals, rumored to hold legendary treasure protected by gods. The crew stops to search. They are attacked by weird animal hybrids and hear a voice calling itself a god. His traps fail, and the crew catches him. He is Gaimon, a man stuck in a chest for 20 years. Luffy befriends him, and Gaimon explains he came to the island with pirates to find treasure. After searching for weeks with no luck, the crew left. When Gaimon finally found treasure chests on a cliff, he slipped, fell into a box, and got stuck, alone and abandoned. Luffy climbs the mountain but finds all 5 treasure chests empty. He invites Gaimon to join his crew, but Gaimon refuses because he is happy living with the animals and feels at peace knowing the treasure was empty. After thanking them, Gaimon waves goodbye as the crew sails toward their next adventure. After finding a box of cannonballs, Luffy and Usopp play with the ship's cannons while Zoro naps and dreams about his past. As a child in Shimotsuki village, Zoro trained at a dojo after losing to Kuina, the daughter of the swordmaster Kushiro. Though he became strong enough to defeat adults, he still couldn't beat Kuina, losing to her 2,000 times. One night, they dueled with real swords. Kuina won again, but confessed she'd never be the world's best swordsman because she was a girl. They promised that one of them would earn that title. The next day, Kuina died in an accident, and Zoro swore to fulfill their dream himself. Kushiro gave him Kuina's sword, the Wado Ichimonji, and Zoro trained for 8 years before becoming a pirate hunter. Back in the present, Luffy fires a cannon at a rock, accidentally hitting one where bounty hunter Johnny and his sick partner Yosaku were resting. Mistaking it for an attack, Johnny boards the ship and accuses the crew. Nami discovers Yosaku has scurvy and cures him with lime juice. Realizing they need a cook to prevent illness, they sail to the floating restaurant Barati. However, they arrive at the same time as Marine Lieutenant Fullbody, who is on a date but orders his men to attack Luffy's ship. Luffy deflects the cannonball, accidentally blasting a hole in the Barati's roof and injuring the head chef Zeph. Since Luffy can't pay for the damage, Zeph forces him to work as a chore boy for a year. Inside, Fullbody insults sous chef Sanji by dropping a fly into his soup. Sanji kicks him for wasting food, angering the staff. Patty scolds Sanji, while Luffy and Zeph crash through the floor above them. Before Fullbody can escape, news spreads that Don Krieg, a feared pirate, has escaped. Soon, Krieg's starving officer Gin appears, asking for food. Patty refuses and beats him up, but Sanji gives him seafood risotto anyway. Luffy, impressed by Sanji's kindness, invites him to join his crew, but Sanji refuses, saying he has his own reasons to stay. Gin warns Luffy that the Grand Line is deadly, then returns to his captain. Luffy clumsily works as a waiter while Sanji flirts with Nami. At the same time, Gin tells Krieg about the Barati, and the pirates plan to seize it. Fog covers the sea as Krieg's fleet approaches. Frightening the customers, Krieg enters, begging for food and promising not to attack. Sanji feeds him despite the staff's protests. Once fed, Krieg betrays them, demanding food for his 100 men and threatening to take the ship. Patty shoots Krieg with his meatball cannon, but his golden armor blocks it. Krieg retaliates by opening fire on the chefs. Zeph orders them to feed the pirates, recognizing Krieg as the captain who failed to survive the Grand Line Krieg. Realizing Zeph is a former pirate who lost his leg, demands Zeph's old logbook to guide him back to sea. Gin apologizes, saying he didn't know Krieg would betray them, and explains their defeat. Krieg's fleet of 50 ships and 5,000 men was destroyed by one man, Dracule Hawkeye Mihawk, the world's greatest swordsman. Only their flagship survived thanks to a storm. Krieg prepares to take the Barati, but suddenly his ship is sliced in half by Mihawk, who followed them to the restaurant. As the wreckage sinks, Johnny and Yosaku float ashore, revealing that Nami stole the Going Merry and left the crew behind. Zoro recognizes Mihawk immediately and challenges him to a duel. Mihawk accepts, but uses only a small knife, considering Zoro too weak for his real blade. Despite using 3 swords, Zoro can't land a hit, but Mihawk wounds him. Impressed by his will, switches to his massive black sword, Yoru. With one strike, he shatters 2 of Zoro's katanas, leaving only the Wado Ichimonji. Accepting defeat, Zoro stands still and lets Mihawk slash him across the chest, knocking him out. Mihawk spares his life, telling him it's too soon for him to die and to get stronger before challenging him again. Zoro promises never to lose again. Satisfied, Mihawk ends the duel and sails away, leaving Krieg behind. Luffy orders Usopp and Zoro to follow Nami while he faces Krieg. Zeph agrees to nullify Luffy's debt if he stops Krieg. Sanji, wanting to protect the restaurant from damage, orders them to raise the defenses so they can still use the restaurant as a battlefield. With no more interruptions, Krieg begins his attack on the Bharati. Patty and Carne attack with Sabagashira the Yur, but Krieg easily blocks it. The chefs also attack, but they are quickly defeated. Patty and Carne remember how they were accepted here, so they decide to stay and fight Krieg. Krieg then unleashes his top fighter, Pearl, a man covered in iron armor who claims he's never bled. Krieg attacks Luffy, and when Luffy falls, he bumps into Pearl, causing Pearl's nose to start bleeding, ending Pearl's never bled record. Pearl sets the deck on fire, boasting that his armor protects him from the flames. Sanji fights him, severely injuring him, but gets knocked out. Just then, Gin points a gun at Zeph. Pearl recovers and says that if Sanji dodges his next attack, Gin will shoot Zeph. With no choice, Sanji takes several heavy hits. As Sanji is knocked out, he remembers his childhood, when he worked as a cook's apprentice on a cruise ship that was attacked by Zeph's pirate crew. They robbed the ship and beat Sanji. During this, Sanji mentioned his dream of finding the All Blue. A storm swept Sanji overboard. Zeph jumped after him to save him, but a giant wave destroyed the ship, and Zeph's leg was trapped. He had to cut it off using a chain to escape. He saved Sanji, and the two were stranded on a rock with almost no food. Zeph gave Sanji a small bag of rations and kept a large sack for himself. Sanji rationed his food carefully, but eventually ran out. They waited on opposite sides of the rock, watching for passing ships to rescue them. Starving, Sanji attacked Zeph to steal his food, only to discover the big sack contained only treasure. Zeph had given Sanji all the real food. Sanji also realized Zeph sacrificed his leg to save him. Zeph explained he saved Sanji because he too once had the dream of finding the All Blue. Eventually they were rescued, and together they built the Bharati. In the present, Sanji stands up and declares he will keep fighting. Enraged, Luffy uses Gomu Gomu no Ono, destroying the entire port side. Krieg orders Gin to kill Sanji, but Gin hesitates. Sanji was the man who once fed him. Pearl attempts to kill Sanji himself, but Gin defeats Pearl and knocks him out. Gin decides to fight Sanji as thanks for the food, while Krieg focuses on Luffy. Gin fights Sanji using two weighted tonfa. Sanji initially lands hits easily, but Gin quickly recovers, beating Sanji badly. Yet he cannot bring himself to finish him. Gin begs Krieg to stop the attack. Instead, Krieg releases his deadliest weapon, the MH5 poison gas bomb. Gin sacrifices himself to shield Luffy and Sanji. Taking the full blast gravely poisoned, the restaurant staff rush to help him. Enraged, Luffy unleashes a storm of attacks. A fierce battle erupts. Luffy hits Krieg with Gomu Gomu no Bazooka, breaking Krieg's armor and shattering his golden plating. Krieg tries to trap Luffy with his spiked net, but Luffy frees himself and punches Krieg unconscious. Luffy falls into the water, but Sanji saves him. Meanwhile, Krieg stands back up and attacks his own crew in panic, but Gin knocks him out. Gin orders Krieg's crew to retreat. Weak and dying, Gin thanks Sanji for saving his life and promises he will reach the Grand Line someday. Luffy asks Sanji again to join his crew, but Sanji refuses, saying he can't leave Zeph. However, Zeph overhears. Inside, the chefs pretend they dislike Sanji's soup, so he will have a reason to leave. Sanji storms out angrily. Zeph explains to Luffy why they acted this way, but Sanji overhears. He finally agrees to join the crew. Luffy and Sanji prepare to leave. Sanji kneels before Zeph and the staff, thanking Zeph tearfully for everything. They part with smiles and respect. Meanwhile, Nami gets closer to her home. At the same time, Yosaku explains that Nami is heading to Arlong Park, the base of the feared fishman Arlong, one of East Blue's most dangerous pirates, and tells them that fishmen are powerful sea creatures with human form and immense strength. Nami arrives at Arlong Park, where Arlong is bribing a corrupt marine officer. Meanwhile, Zoro, Usopp, and Johnny reaches to the island, and Zoro prepares to charge the base, but Usopp and Johnny stop him. They tie him up with a rope and sail around the island. Their ship is spotted by Arlong's fishmen. Usopp and Johnny jump into the sea to escape, but Zoro can't get away and is captured by the Arlong pirates. Arlong interrogates Zoro and explains that fishmen are far superior to humans because they are stronger and can breathe underwater. Nami appears and tells Zoro she is an officer and the cartographer working for Arlong. Meanwhile, Usopp and Johnny reach Gosa village and discover it has been destroyed with all the houses flipped upside down. A fishman explains that Arlong's sea monster Mamu destroyed the village because someone couldn't pay the tribute. He then tries to capture Usopp, but Nojiko saves him by drawing the pirate away. She brings Usopp to her home. Far out at sea, Luffy, Sanji, and Yosaku eat on the ship when Momu appears, attracted by the food Momu attacks, but Luffy and Sanji beat him and knock him back into the water. Luffy then forces Momu to pull their ship toward Arlong Park. At Nojiko's house, Usopp meets the boy Chabo, who says his father was killed when Arlong destroyed Gosa village. Usopp learns that Nami works for Arlong. Nojiko reveals she is Nami's adopted sister. Usopp sadly says he thought Nami enjoyed being with their crew. Meanwhile, Arlong attacks Genzo for owning a weapon. Nojiko explains that Arlong sees humans as tools and forces, every villager to pay him each month or be killed. He destroyed Gosa village because one person couldn't pay. Arlong says he will use the tribute money to rule all of East Blue. Since having a weapon counts as rebellion, Arlong decides to execute Genzo, but Usopp interrupts and shoots him from a rooftop. Furious, Arlong lifts the entire house and smashes it into another. His own crew stops him so he won't destroy Kokoyashi village and lose money. Genzo is treated for his wounds. At the same time, Nami visits a grave on a cliff and says she will raise 100 million berries to buy back the village. Zoro, who already defeated all the guards inside, meets Hechin. Thinking Zoro is a guest, Hachi offers to take him to Kokoyashi village. Zoro leaves just before Arlong returns and learns the man who escaped was the pirate hunter Roronoa Zoro. Usopp runs from the Arlong pirates but eventually falls off a cliff. Chu, one of Arlong's officers, catches him and brings him to Arlong Park. Meanwhile, Kurubi accuses Nami of helping Zoro escape and hiding treasure in the village. To prove her loyalty, she stabs Usopp in the stomach and he falls into the pool. Johnny witnesses Nami stabbing Usopp and believes she killed him. The officers now trust her. Nami goes to her room but then notices Luffy's ship arriving near Arlong Park. The ship is launched into the air and crashes into the forest. Zoro meets Luffy among the trees. At the same time, Nami confronts the crew and says she truly works for Arlong, telling them to leave the island before they get caught. But Luffy refuses to leave without her. He lies down on the road, saying he won't move. Johnny and Yosaku decide to leave the crew and part ways with Zoro. Meanwhile, Usopp reunites with the crew and explains that Nami stabbed the back of her own hand, not him, letting him escape unharmed. Meanwhile, the Marine's 77th branch, led by Commodore Pudding Pudding, approaches the island to rescue any survivors from Gosa village and arrest Arlong. Arlong sends only 3 officers to handle them. Chu scares the Marines, Kurubi rips off the ship's rudder, and Hachin creates a whirlpool that sinks the ship, killing the Marines. Arlong then calls the Marine's 16th branch, led by Captain Nezumi, and sends them to Nami's house to stop her from buying Kokoyashi village. Nojiko meets Nami at her house, and Nami admits she made real happy memories with Luffy's crew, Kurubi and Hachin. Go to check reports of a flying ship. They confront Luffy, who is casually taking a walk nearby, and in a short flashback we see Nami's and Nojiko's past as she explains it to them. Nami and Nojiko grew up just outside Kokoyashi village with their adoptive mother, Belle-Mère, who survived by growing mekons. They were very poor. Nami stole books for her map-making hobby. Belle-Mère fed the girls and only ate mekons herself, and Nami wore Nojiko's old clothes. The next day, upset about their lack of money, Nami ran away and hid at Genzo's office. Genzo told her how Belle-Mère found them. While serving as a Marine during a war, Belle-Mère discovered Nojiko and baby Nami and took them home to raise as her daughter's Nojiko arrives, and they go back to Belle-Mère's house for dinner. Then the Arlong pirates invaded the island. Arlong declared the whole place under his control and forced everyone to pay a monthly tribute to Live. Seeing smoke from the outskirts, Nami and Nojiko rushed home, knowing Belle-Mère didn't have enough money for all 3 of them. Arlong confronted Belle-Mère. She only had 100,000 berries, enough for herself or for her daughters, but not both. Villagers tried to hide Nami and Nojiko so Belle-Mère could pay for herself, but she refused to deny her family. She paid the tribute for the girls, not for herself. After telling them goodbye, Belle-Mère was shot and killed by Arlong. Impressed by Nami's map, Arlong forced her into his crew and gave her money. Nami decided to steal from pirates and save 100 million berries to buy back the village. Over the years, she became a pirate thief, hiding her earnings underground. In present, Captain Nezumi arrives at her house, claiming her treasure is stolen property. He digs up the orchard and seizes all of Nami's savings, keeping part of it for himself. Nami realizes Arlong sent Nezumi so he could keep her money and never free the village. When Nami tries to fight back, Nezumi shoots Nojiko in the back. While Nojiko is treated, Nami confronts Arlong. He says he didn't break his promise. He didn't saint Nezumi. Feeling betrayed, Nami returns to the village, where the villagers, led by Genzo, decide to fight Arlong. She begs them not to go, knowing they can't win, but they refuse and march toward Arlong Park. Furious and heartbroken, Nami repeatedly stabs the Arlong tattoo on her shoulder, and as she cries, she finally asks, "Help me, Luffy!" He places his straw hat on her head, agrees, and sends the crew to Arlong Park. Johnny and Yosaku stop the villagers outside so the crew can fight for them. The crew breaks through the gates of Arlong Park, and Luffy punches Arlong. Hatchin recognizes Zoro as the pirate hunter who escaped, and when they see Usopp alive, they realize Nami lied to them. Hatchin summons Momu to attack, but Luffy uses Gomu Gomu no Kazaguruma, knocking Mumu out and defeating the Fishmen pirates. However, Luffy becomes stuck because he planted his feet deep into the concrete. Arlong's 3 officers step forward. Hatchin tries to cover Luffy in squid ink and crush him, but it doesn't hurt Luffy in it, though he still can't move. Sanji fights Kurubi, Zoro chooses Hatchin as his opponent, and Usopp accidentally angers Chu, who begins chasing him. Chu sees villagers starting a rebellion, but Usopp declares Chu is his opponent. Chu then chases Usopp out of the base. Luffy is still stuck in the ground, so Arlong starts a cruel game. He lifts Luffy along with the cement on his feet, throws him into the pool to drown. Zoro and Sanji can't save him yet because Kurubi and Hatchin would beat them underwater. Zoro fights Hatchin, but since he's badly injured from his duel with Mihawk and only has 1 sword left, he struggles. Sanji gets distracted and Kurubi hits him. Seeing Luffy will drown, Genzo and Nojiko sneak into the base. They jump into the pool, lift Luffy's head above the water so he can breathe, and try to break the cement, but they can't. Hatchin climbs up to grab his 6 swords for his 6 arms. Zoro borrows 2 swords from Johnny and Yosaku, and uses 3-sword style again. Hatchin attacks Zoro's injuries, but Zoro uses Tatsumaki to destroy all 6 swords and launch Hatchin away. Zoro wins, but he's too hurt to save Luffy. Sanji dives into the pool to rescue Luffy, but Kurubi hits him from behind. Meanwhile, Chu keeps chasing Usopp through the outskirts of the island. Nami finishes bandaging her wounds at home, and decides to return to Arlong Park to join the fight. Underwater, Kurubi has the advantage. He grabs Sanji with his hair and beats him with fishman karate, dragging him deeper so the water pressure crushes him. Sanji damages Kurubi by blowing air into his gills, then returns to the surface. On land, Sanji regains the upper hand. Even though Kurubi threatens to use his strongest move, Sanji overwhelms him with rapid kicks and finishes him with Muten Shot, smashing him through a wall. Meanwhile, Usopp pretends to be dead but decides to stop running. He hides in the forest while Chu fires high-pressure water bullets at him. Because Usopp covered Chu in wine earlier, he sets him on fire with a burning shot, and then beats him repeatedly with his hammer until he collapses. At the pool, Nojiko and Genso switch places, with Nojiko going underwater this time. Arlong attacks Zoro and Sanji by launching water-like bullets, but Nami arrives and joins the fight. Arlong promises to spare the villagers if she gives up, but Nami refuses and fights alongside the crew. Nojiko manages to revive Luffy, but his feet are still trapped underwater. Sanji dives again and tries to break the cement. Hatchin wakes up and tries to stop him, but reopening his wounds makes him faint again. Sanji breaks the cement and frees Luffy. Luffy leaps out of the water and attacks Arlong. Arlong bites through stone with his teeth and snaps swords in half. He then reveals his even sharper, fast-growing teeth and uses the extra sets as handheld weapons. Luffy grabs one set and uses it as a biting weapon too. Arlong uses Shark on darts, launching himself like a missile, but Luffy blocks him with his rubber arms. Angered, Arlong enters a stronger rage state like a Sea King. He gets his massive sword, the Kiribachi, and slams Luffy into the building, landing in Nami's map room. Luffy declares Nami as his navigator and sees a pen covered in her dried blood. He destroys Arlong's weapon with his bare hands and then destroys the entire map room, the place where Nami suffered for years. Outside, people see furniture flying out of the building. Nami sees this too and thanks Luffy. Arlong bites into Luffy's shoulder, but Luffy breaks his nose. Arlong uses one last attack, Shark on Tooth, but Luffy uses Gomu Gomu no Ono and stomps him straight through the building. Arlong crashes through every floor and is knocked out. The whole building collapses from the damage. Luffy climbs out of the rubble and says Nami is his crewmate. She accepts. The villagers try to celebrate, but Nezumi's Marines arrive to steal Arlong's money. The Straw Hats beat the Marines and tell them to arrest Arlong and return the money to the villagers. Nezumi escapes, swearing revenge. Back at the village, Genzo apologizes to Nami on behalf of everyone. Nezumi later reports Luffy to the Marines and requests a large bounty. News of Arlong's fall spreads and the whole island celebrates. Zoro is treated by Dr. Nako, while Luffy eats. Nami visits Belmare's grave with Nojiko and Genzo, telling them she will leave the village to follow Luffy. After sunset, she asks Nako to remove Arlong's tattoo and replaces it with a new one, a Mikan and Pinwheel, symbols of Belmare and Genzo. She leaves her 100 million berries behind, packs her things, and heads to the dock. Ignoring the villagers thanking her, Nami jumps onto the Going Merry, and it's revealed she pickpocketed them one last time, laughing as she shouts, "Thank you." As the Going Merry sails away, Nami officially joins the crew as their navigator, and the villagers wave goodbye, finally free. After leaving Kokoyashi village, the crew sails toward Logtown, the town of the beginning and the end, where the pirate king Gold D. Roger was both born and executed. During the trip, they celebrate Luffy's new 30 million berry bounty, the highest in East Blue. News of Arlong's defeat spreads across the seas, shocking pirates and marines. Many see Luffy's wanted poster, full body, now demoted. Mihawk, who shows it to Shanks, and even Buggy and Alvida now teamed up in plotting revenge. After docking, the crew splits up. Luffy wants to see the platform where Roger died. Zoro searches for new swords. Nami shops. Usopp looks for weapons, and Sanji hunts for rare ingredients. Marine Captain Smoker, who can turn into smoke thanks to the Moku Moku no Mi fruit, learns Luffy has arrived and begins to hunt him down. Luffy visits the same bar Roger once did. The old bartender remembers Roger fondly and sees the same spirit in Luffy. As he leaves, Smoker spots him and gives chase, amazed by Luffy's fearless smile that reminds him of Roger's. Meanwhile, Zoro finds a sword shop run by an old man and meets Tashigi, who looks just like his late friend Kuina. Zoro picks two blades, the cursed Sandai Kitetsu and Yubashiri, a fine sword given by the shopkeeper. To test the curse, Zoro tosses Kitetsu into the air and holds out his arm. The blade misses, proving his luck. As everyone goes about their errands, dark clouds gather over Logtown. Buggy and Alvida arrive, now allies, and start causing chaos. Curious, Luffy climbs the execution platform, not realizing it's the very spot Roger died. Kabaji slams a set of stocks down on Luffy, trapping him. Buggy declares his intention to publicly execute Luffy right there on the same platform where Gold Roger died. Smoker surrounds the area but waits to strike until Buggy finishes. Zoro and Sanji race to save Luffy, while Nami and Usopp hurry to the ship as the storm worsens. Tied up on the platform, Luffy laughs and shouts, "I'm going to be king of the pirates!" Just as Buggy raises his blade, lightning strikes the platform, destroying it and saving Luffy. Buggy is electrocuted as rain pours down. Smoker watches stunned, recalling Roger's final moments. Luffy's smile is the same. Luffy escapes with Zoro and Sanji, but Smoker chases them through the streets. When he corners Luffy and traps him with smoke, a cloaked man appears, Dragon. Dragon summons fierce winds that blow Smoker away and help Luffy escape. When Smoker demands to know who he is, Dragon says only, "The storm of fate has arrived." At the docks, Nami and Usopp prepare the Going Merry as Marines close in. Usopp fights them off with his slingshot, giving Sanji time to board. Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji leap onto the ship under cannon fire, and the storm's winds carry them out to sea toward Reverse Mountain, the gateway to the Grand Line. Everyone decide to chase them to the Grand Line as they gather up in different teams. The journey continues as the Straw Hat Pirates slide down Reverse Mountain into the Grand Line. A thick fog surrounds them. Zoro hears a strange sound, but Nami says it's just the wind. Sanji sees a mountain ahead, but when the fog clears, it's actually a giant whale. At their speed, they're about to crash. Zoro tells them to steer left, but Usopp reminds everyone the helm is broken. Zoro runs to help while Luffy goes below deck with an idea. Zoro, Usopp, and Sanji try to pull the helm, but it won't move. Right before they hit the whale, Luffy fires a cannon. The ship slows but still hits the whale. Only the figurehead breaks, angering Luffy. The whale doesn't react. Zoro tells everyone to escape while it still ignores them. As they pass its eye, Luffy punches it in anger. The whale finally notices and sucks in the water, and the Straw Hats, with Luffy barely holding onto a tooth. He climbs on top as his crew is swallowed. On the whale, Luffy yells for his friends to be released, but it dives. He sees a door on its back. Inside, the crew lands on a small island with a fake blue sky. A giant squid appears, but something on the island kills it instantly. Nami wants to go home, and Usopp wishes Luffy was there. They both worry about him. Meanwhile, Luffy wanders lost through a strange passage. An old man steps out of a house, drags the squid, sits, and reads the newspaper. Sanji yells at him, and Usopp threatens him. Calmly, the old man says someone would die if they fought. Sanji is annoyed. Zoro tries politeness. The man introduces himself, Crocus, keeper of the Twin Capes lighthouse. Usopp asks if they're really inside a whale. Nami panics about being digested. Crocus strikes another dramatic pose, but the crew tells him to stop. He points out a strange door in the sky, revealing the surroundings are painted. Crocus proudly admits he painted it for fun. Suddenly, the island shakes. Nami notices it's iron and chained down. Crocus explains Laboon, the whale, is ramming the red line again. Nami remembers his scars and cries. She and Usopp even think Crocus wants to kill the whale. Zoro says they should leave before the ship dissolves. Elsewhere, Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday sneak around with guns. The Straw Hats try to escape, but the waves are strong. Crocus dives and swims away. Luffy falls in a slanted tunnel inside the whale. The intruders plan to kill Crocus for the whale. Crocus climbs back inside the whale. Before they can act, Luffy falls from above and knocks them into digestive juice. Crocus reaches a hidden area, injects the whale with sedative, and calms it. The Straw Hats rescue Luffy and the intruders. Crocus warns them not to harm Laboon. They fire bazookas, but Crocus blocks the blast. They claim the town needs Laboon's meat, until Luffy knocks them out with one punch. Crocus thanks Luffy, who says he just didn't want harm to happen. Nami asks who the intruders were. Crocus explains they wanted Laboon's meat to feed their town for years. Laboon is an island whale from West Blue, largest of its kind, and keeps ramming the red line because he has a human-like heart and waits 50 years for a pirate crew. Crocus tells Laboon's story. 50 years ago, the Rumbar pirates entered the Grand Line with the young whale following them. Crocus befriended them, and they asked him to care for Laboon, promising to return in 3 years. Laboon agreed to wait no matter what. The Straw Hats understand Laboon's pain. Crocus, a doctor, treats Laboon's wounds from inside. Luffy asks him to join the crew, but he refuses. He guides them out through a tunnel. Crocus believes the Rumbar pirates abandoned Laboon. The crew wonders why he never told the whale. Crocus says Laboon wouldn't listen, but he won't abandon him. Luffy breaks the ship's mast and challenges Laboon. They fight until Luffy declares a draw. He calls Laboon his rival and promises a rematch after their journey, painting a Jolly Roger on the whale's face. Mr. 9 and Miss Wednesday escape but drop their log pose, which Luffy picks up. They return to their boss, but Mr. 13 and Miss Friday drop a bomb on them. Nami learns normal compasses don't work on the Grand Line. Crocus explains the log pose records Island's magnetic fields and eventually leads to Laugh Tale. Usopp asks about the One Piece. Crocus says only Gold D, Roger, reached it. Luffy says they'll see when they get there. Luffy eats all the food, so Sanji kicks him. The log pose breaks. Nami kicks both of them. Crocus offers his own log pose as thanks. Laboon spits out Luffy, Sanji, Mr. 9, and Miss Wednesday. The intruders ask to travel to Whiskey Peak. Crocus wants the Straw Hats to leave them, but Luffy agrees to take them home. The Straw Hats sail toward Whiskey Peak. Nami notices the Grand Line's wild weather and guides the crew back on course. At Whiskey Peak, the intruders swim ashore. Nami warns no one can leave until the log pose resets. The townspeople warmly welcome the Straw Hats, surprising them. Nami and Zoro join a drinking contest. Sanji charms local women, Usopp boasts, and Luffy eats nonstop. Nami wins. After the party, Igaram reveals the townspeople are bounty hunters aiming to capture the Straw Hats. Zoro knew from the start and fights them, causing chaos as hunters hit each other. Mr. 8 orders an attack, but Zoro easily overpowers them, dodging bullets, explosions, and odd attacks. Inside a bar, Nami wakes sober, realizing the town is a trap. Zoro keeps fighting waves of hunters, showing off his swords. Miss Monday briefly overpowers him, but he defeats her with one hand. Agents explain their ranking system. Mr. 8 says Marines mistakenly think Zoro is the Straw Hats' captain. Miss Wednesday, Mr. 9, and Mr. 8 attack him, but Zoro outmaneuvers them. Chaos escalates when Miss Wednesday threatens sleeping Luffy. Zoro drags Mr. 9 into danger, sending all three flying. Far away, the Unluckies arrive just as Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine show up. Instead of helping their fellow agents, they blow them up. Mr. 9 thanks them, thinking they came to assist, but they reveal their true mission: eliminate the agents who know too much, especially Miss Wednesday, who is actually Princess Nefertari Vivi of Alabasta. Igaram, revealed to be the captain of Alabasta's royal guard, attacks Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine to protect Vivi. But the two Baroque Works officers easily withstand the assault. Smoke fills the air as Mr. 5 fires a deadly explosive attack that knocks Igaram down. Vivi cries out for him. Zoro drags the still sleeping Luffy away from the danger. Igaram, barely conscious, begs Vivi to escape for the sake of Alabasta. Furious, Vivi prepares to fight, but Mr. 9 steps in, telling her to run while he buys time. He attacks with acrobatics, but is instantly blown away by one of Mr. 5's explosive boogers. Vivi is horrified. Zoro watches from above, confused. Igaram grabs Zoro's leg and begs him to protect Vivi, promising a reward. Zoro refuses since they had tried to kill him earlier. Then Nami appears, having overheard everything. The moment she hears the word reward, she demands 1 billion berries to protect Vivi. Igaram says he can't promise that, but Nami pressures him until he says they can negotiate with Vivi later. She orders Zoro to help, even though he doesn't want to. After a frustrating argument, Zoro reluctantly sets off. Nami reminds Zoro about the money he owes her, which angers him even more, but he still goes after Vivi. Nami comforts Igaram by assuring him that Zoro is strong enough to protect her. Vivi and Karoo try to escape to the ships. Luffy, still bloated from eating, wakes up in a river, sees the destruction from Zoro's fight, and staggers onward. Vivi is soon blocked by Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine again. Miss Monday appears and tells Vivi which road leads to the ships. She decides to stay behind and hold off the assassins. Vivi hesitates, but Miss Monday tells her to go. Otherwise, everyone's sacrifices would be wasted. Vivi thanks her and flees. Miss Monday bravely confronts Mr. Five but is brutally defeated in an explosion. Vivi stops running when she hears it and stares in horror at the flames. Mr. Five and Miss Valentine explain their devil fruit powers and say Vivi has no chance. Just as Mr. Five prepares to finish her, Zoro blocks attacks and tells Miss Wednesday to stop panicking. Meanwhile, Nami keeps questioning Igaram about Baroque Works. He explains it's a secret criminal organization focused on sabotage, assassination, and bounty hunting. Higher-ranked agents get more power. Miss Valentine guesses that Zoro defeated all the bounty hunters in Whiskey Peak. Mr. Five wonders why he would protect Vivi. Zoro simply says he has his own reasons, and Mr. Five replies they will have to kill him for interfering. Zoro and Mr. Five are about to fight when an angry shout stops them. Luffy has arrived. Vivi is confused, and Zoro says he can handle the enemies alone, but instead of helping, Luffy starts yelling at Zoro. He thinks Zoro attacked innocent people because the townsfolk tricked him earlier. Zoro tries to explain, but Luffy refuses to listen and challenges him. Zoro keeps trying to talk, but Luffy charges at him. Zoro dodges and tells him to calm down. Miss Valentine and Mr. Five decide to focus on their mission to kill Vivi, but Zoro kicks the bloated Luffy straight into them, sending all three flying. Annoyed, Mr. Five says he will kill both Zoro and Luffy. He attacks Luffy while Zoro and Vivi watch. Miss Valentine floats into the air to attack Zoro and Vivi next. Vivi panics and tells Zoro to run, but he ignores her. Suddenly, Luffy walks out of the smoke. He has digested all his food and is dragging a beaten, bloodied Mr. Five behind him. Vivi is shocked that Luffy defeated such a strong enemy so easily. Luffy turns back to Zoro, still refusing to believe him. Miss Valentine gets irritated that they keep ignoring her while she floats above. Zoro finally gives up trying to explain. He dodges Miss Valentine's attack and prepares to fight Luffy. Vivi watches in disbelief as they launch powerful attacks. Both smash into walls but burst out quickly and keep fighting. Mr. Five and Miss Valentine complain the pirates are making fun of Baroque Works. They charge in, but Luffy and Zoro knock them out instantly for getting in the way. With the enemy agents defeated, Luffy and Zoro get ready to continue their own fight, until Nami appears and knocks both of them out cold. Luffy finally understands what really happened in Whiskey Peak. Nami then demands that Vivi pay a 1 billion berry fee for escorting her to Alabasta. Vivi says her kingdom is in chaos and she probably can't pay. She explains that she learned years ago that Baroque Works has been manipulating Alabasta to overthrow her father. She asked Igaram to help her infiltrate the group and discover the leader's identity. Vivi hesitates to say the boss's name because it puts their life in danger, but she accidentally reveals it. Mr. Zero is Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. The Unluckies appear quietly, draw wanted sketches of Luffy, Zoro, and Nami, and fly away. Nami is furious that Vivi exposed them by mistake. Vivi apologizes repeatedly, but Nami stays angry. Luffy and Zoro, however, are excited that a warlord is after them. Nami complains that the Grand Line has only brought them trouble. Igaram returns dressed like Vivi, carrying 3 dummies that look like the Straw Hats. He says he will act as a decoy and sail straight to Alabasta using Vivi's eternal pose. Vivi should instead travel with the Straw Hats, island by island, so Baroque Works cannot track her easily. He adds that before Crocodile became a warlord, he had an 80 million berry bounty. Luffy accepts the challenge immediately. Moments after Igaram leaves, his ship explodes in a huge blast. Furious, Luffy runs back to the Mary to set sail. Nami comforts Vivi, promising they will fight Baroque Works and protect her. Luffy drags Sanji and Usopp to the ship. Karoo is already waiting. A mysterious woman appears. Miss All Sunday, Crocodile's partner. She claims she blew up Igaram's ship. Luffy asks who she is. She says she's curious about Vivi's mission, but calls it foolish. She disarms the crew instantly. Sanji falls for her beauty. She shows Nami that the log pose points to Little Garden and gives Vivi an eternal pose for safe travel. Vivi hesitates. Luffy crushes the pose, refusing an outsider to decide their path, and angrily tells her off. Miss All Sunday laughs, liking his spirit, and leaves on a giant sea turtle. Vivi collapses. The crew explains everything to Usopp and Sanji. Miss All Sunday wonders how the Straw Hats will handle Little Garden. A jungle, tiger, and giant footprint are shown. Aboard the Mary, Luffy asks Vivi, and she explains that the last sea had strange magnetic forces. She warns them not to underestimate the Grand Line. Vivi gets annoyed because the crew isn't serious, until a huge dolphin attacks the ship. The Straw Hats react instantly, showing they can handle danger. Soon they spot the foggy island of Little Garden. The crew gets excited for their second Grand Line stop. Meanwhile, Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week enjoy tea, and discussing Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week, 5 and Miss Valentine's defeat. Mr. 3 calls Mr. 5 an overconfident fool, and promises to show the Straw Hats the true terror of Baroque works. As the crew approaches Little Garden, Sanji is attacked by a giant bird. A huge tiger appears beside the ship but collapses, bleeding heavily. Luffy says they should explore the island, and Vivi joins him because she wants to clear her mind. Zoro goes for a walk, and Sanji tells him to bring back anything edible. They argue and rush to compete for the bigger catch. Hearing strange sounds, Nami remembers something about the island and checks her books. Luffy and Vivi find a squid-like shellfish as huge footsteps approach. Sanji almost gets eaten by a T-Rex, while Zoro runs into a Triceratops wondering if it's edible. Luffy and Vivi meet a Brachiosaurus, and Vivi realizes the island is untouched because nothing leaves the Grand Line, keeping its ecosystem frozen in time. As Nami explains the creatures to Usopp, a giant silhouette appears. Nami and Usopp panic at a massive figure approaching the Going Merry. The giant asks for alcohol. Nami says they only have cooking and medical alcohol. Suddenly, a T-Rex bites him from behind. The giant cuts off its head and introduces himself as Brogy, claiming to be Elbaf's strongest warrior. He calls Nami and Usopp his guests, but they are so terrified they pretend to be dead. Meanwhile, Luffy and Vivi explore. Luffy climbs the Brachiosaurus but is swallowed. A giant slices the dinosaur's neck, catches him, and introduces himself as Dory, another Elbaf warrior, inviting them to his home. Brogy brings Nami and Usopp to his place and cooks dinosaur meat, but they fear he will eat them and try to escape. After being chased by bigger predators, they end up right back at Brogy's feet. Dory explains to Luffy, Vivi, and Karoo that he and Brogy have been dueling for 100 years, fighting whenever the central volcano erupts. In the jungle, Mr. 3, Mr. 5, and Miss Valentine prepare to claim the Giant's bounties. Usopp admires Brogy's strength and calls him master. After another draw, Brogy gives Dory 2 barrels of alcohol taken from Nami and Usopp. Dory drinks one, but it explodes inside him, and he blames the Straw Hats. Luffy has to fight the weakened Dory and knocks him out. When the volcano erupts again, Dory gets up and goes to fight, even injured. He traps Luffy under a huge rock so he won't interfere. Dory and Brogy clash again. Zoro finds Nami in the forest and senses something is wrong. Nami finds Luffy but is attacked right away. Usopp runs in fear until he meets Vivi and Luffy. Vivi guesses Baroque works caused the explosion and the disappearance. Mr. 3's plan works. Brogy unknowingly defeats Dory. Heartbroken, Brogy cries, but Mr. 3 traps his legs in wax. Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine bring Karoo to Dory's home and beat him while he's down. They quickly defeat Usopp and Vivi. After beating Luffy again, Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine take Vivi to the duel site, where Mr. 3 is covering Brogy in even more wax. Then he builds a giant cake-shaped stand and traps Vivi, Nami, and Zoro on top, adding spinning candles that will slowly turn them into wax statues. He proudly explains how he rigged the duel. Brogy gets furious and tries to break free, but Mr. 5 knocks him out again, and Mr. 3 strengthens the wax. Meanwhile, Karoo digs Luffy out from under the rock. Luffy, Karoo, and Usopp arrive as Zoro tries to cut off his own legs to escape. Mr. 3 decides to fight Luffy, while Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine handle Usopp and Karoo. He traps Luffy's feet in wax, but Luffy breaks part of the structure holding his friends. The wax breaks off his legs, but the statues harden even faster. Luffy tries again to destroy the giant candle service set, but Mr. 3 blocks him with candle walls. Usopp tries to blow it up with an exploding star, but Mr. 5 eats it with no problem. Luffy almost beats Mr. 3, but Miss Golden Week uses her colors trap to hypnotize him. She paints a mark that makes Luffy betray his friends. Vivi tricks him off the paint, but Miss Golden Week draws another symbol on his back, making him laugh helplessly. Usopp finds Luffy calmly drinking tea with Miss Golden Week, while the others are nearly fully waxed, burning. Usopp burns the shirt she painted on him, freeing Luffy from hypnosis. Luffy tries to destroy the pedestal, but Mr. 3 comes back in a huge wax suit to fight him. Usopp is blasted by Mr. 5 but still manages to make Karoo run around an oil-soaked rope to ignite it. Luffy uses Mr. 3's flaming hair to set it ablaze, destroying the structure and freeing Zoro, Nami, and Vivi. As they break free from the flames, Miss Valentine is defeated. Zoro finishes Mr. 5. Luffy and Karoo chase and defeat Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week. Meanwhile, Sanji finds Mr. 3's hideout and answers a Denden Mushi from Mr. 0. Pretending to be Mr. 3, he claims Vivi and the crew are dead. The Unluckies deliver an eternal pose to Alabasta, attack Sanji, but he defeats them. Crocodile orders Mr. 3 to return to Alabasta, and after the call, tells Miss All Sunday to send Mr. 2 to eliminate him. Brogy cries over Dory's death, but Dory wakes. He explains Broggy's axe only knocked him out. Using the Eternal Pose, the Straw Hats set sail. Broggy and Dory help them by killing a giant predator trying to eat the Going Merry. They remember the reason for their duel. Long ago, after each killed a Sea King, a little girl asked which one was bigger. They came to Little Garden to settle it and stayed for a century. On the Merry, Usopp dreams about visiting Elbaf someday, and Luffy happily agrees, and they dance until they almost fall overboard. Meanwhile, Nami hands Vivi the Eternal Pose. Vivi remembers she must survive to save Alabasta. Sanji comforts them while Luffy, Usopp, and Karoo drool over food, which he scolds them for. Zoro trains alone, ashamed he couldn't save everyone during the candle trap. Elsewhere, Mr. Tubonkure receives a departure alert. Back on the Merry, Nami collapses from her condition. She pretends she's fine, but everyone is worried. Nami warns Zoro of a strange wind. He orders a course change, avoiding a cyclone and falling snow. Nami rests while Vivi tends to her. Zoro spots a man on the water. Wapol pirates attack the Merry. Their captain Wapol eats a meat skewer, stick and all, then his sword, revealing he ate the Munch Munch fruit, letting him eat anything. Luffy gets angry when Wapol eats part of the ship and fights him. The crew joins except Usopp. Luffy blasts Wapol away with Gomu Gomu no rocket. A quick flashback shows a Smoker and Tashigi overhear the call between Sanji and Crocodile. They decide to head for Alabasta. On the Merry, Luffy tries to cheer Nami but fails. The crew anchors for the night. Nami wakes, sees her friends asleep, smiles, and goes back to sleep. Sanji keeps watch. Vivi explains the cold signals an island is close. Sanji spots land. They reach Drum Island, but villagers threaten them. Dalton orders them to leave. A villager fires at Sanji but misses. Sanji prepares to fight, but Vivi steps in and is shot. Luffy, furious, prepares to attack, but Vivi hugs him, telling him a captain shouldn't solve everything with fighting. Luffy calms down and apologizes. Dalton understands and invites them to follow him. Vivi smiles and Luffy compliments her. They walk with Dalton, encountering a hiking bear. Usopp suggests playing dead and everyone quietly passes. On the Going Merry, Zoro says his legs are healed. Shirtless, he trains while Karoo watches. Dalton introduces Bighorn and sends non-guards home. Dalton invites the crew to rest at his house. Nami lies in bed while Vivi covers her. Dalton introduces himself as security squad captain. He feels he's seen Vivi before. Vivi nervously changes the topic, asking about Nami's fever. Dalton explains the Drum Rockies and mentions Dr. Kureha at the old drum castle. Luffy decides to climb the mountain with Nami on his back. Nami agrees. Sanji joins. Dalton warns them to avoid the main path because of Lapons. After they leave, Usopp and Vivi watch them go. Dalton stays with them and explains Drum Island's history. The island was famous for doctors until 5 months ago when pirates attacked. Their captain called himself Blackbeard. Some thought the kingdom's fall was deserved because of the corrupt king, Wapol. Luffy and Sanji run through the snow as a Lapon attacks. Sanji kicks it away. Soon a large herd blocks their path. Meanwhile, Wapol sees Drum Island from his ship and warns his crew. Sanji tells Luffy not to fight the Lapon because Nami would be affected and uses Flanche Shoot to knock one away. Elsewhere, Kureha operates on a sick boy, gives him medicine, and charges a huge fee, but gives a tiny discount when thanked. Dalton explains how Wapol limited doctors and created the Ishi-20, making Vivi angry. Dalton realizes Vivi is the princess. At the coast, Wapol's pirates attack the Watchmen. Wapol rides Robson while Chess rebuilds the drum castle symbol. Usopp learns the doctor went to Gastea. An injured Watchman reports Wapol to Dalton. Luffy and Sanji are caught in a Lapon-triggered avalanche. They climb a cliff, but the snow still hits them. Villagers prepare for Wapol's arrival. Wapol eats buildings as he marches. Kuromaru says the Straw Hats are looking for a doctor. Dalton reaches Bighorn and attacks Wapol, but the Ishi-20 heal him. Dalton pleads, but Dalton transforms into Bison Human. Chess and Kuromaru comment on each other. Luffy continues to the mountain but is stopped by Wapol's men. The Lapon he helped protects him, letting Luffy escape. They find Zoro buried in snow. Wapol's men defeat the Lapons. Zoro, Vivi, and Usopp reach Bighorn and see chaos. Zoro recognizes the soldiers, defeats them, and takes their warm coats and swords. Villagers thank Zoro and dig for Dalton. Usopp helps. After a long struggle, Luffy reaches the top. Chopper brings them inside. Kureha and Chopper treat the crew. Chopper identifies Nami's illness as a Keisei bite. Nami wakes and meets Chopper, who is nervous and clumsy. Kureha explains the bite could have killed her in 2 days. Chopper watches over Luffy and Sanji. Luffy wakes hungry, scares Chopper, and they chase him until they see Nami. Kureha explains Chopper is a reindeer who ate the Hito Hito no Mi, letting him talk and walk like a human. Chopper transforms into a strong form to escape. Kureha says she raised him in medicine. Wapol and his men search for Luffy. Everyone digs for Dalton, who is found without a pulse. Kureha tells Nami Chopper's sad past. He was born with a blue nose, rejected by reindeer and humans, and even more after eating the devil fruit. Sanji and Luffy try to close a gate, but Chopper protects a bird nest. Sanji calls him a monster, making him run. Luffy likes him and wants him on the crew. In the lab, Luffy startles Chopper, but he catches falling glassware. Luffy tickles him and asks him to join, but Chopper runs. Sanji brings Nami food. Kureha enters, Sanji calls her Madam, and she kicks him. Luffy keeps chasing Chopper until Kureha hears the word Nakama and begins telling Hiruluk's story. Years ago, Hiruluk escaped soldiers during the doctor hunt. He treated a sick man with a strange frog medicine that turned him green. Soldiers came and Hiruluk fled, briefly meeting Kureha, then running into injured Chopper. Chopper attacked Hiruluk, but he proved he meant no harm. Chopper woke, ate bread, and cried. After 3 days, Chopper spoke for the first time. They visited villages but were chased away. After a small fight, Hiruluk gave Chopper a hat and told a story about miracles and cherry blossoms. One day, Hiruluk forced Chopper out and asked Kureha how long he had left. 10 days. He wanted to show Chopper that anything is possible. Chopper remembers soldiers talking about a miraculous mushroom. He searched Hiruluk's books and went to find it. He met a reindeer herd. One head-butted him, but he fought back. He found the mushroom but was badly beaten. He returned to Hiruluk with a broken leg and swollen eye. Hiruluk hugged him, calling him kind-hearted, cooked the mushroom, and sent Chopper to rest. Kureha arrived, revealed the mushroom was poisonous, and taught Chopper that kindness alone isn't enough. Knowledge is needed. Chopper cried. Hiruluk reached the castle, but Wapol revealed it was a trap. Chopper ran up the mountain too late. Hiruluk blew himself up. Dalton stopped Chopper, saying he would die too, and vowed to carry on Hiruluk's will before being imprisoned. Back in the present, Luffy spots Wapol and his crew. Chopper informs Kureha. Chess points out Drum Castle's flag. Luffy attacks Wapol with a Gomu Gomu no pistol, sending him flying, but his subordinates catch him. Luffy enters the castle to find warm clothes, while Sanji protects Kureha from afros thrown by Kuromarimo. The afros stick and catch fire when Chess shoots arrows. Luffy borrows Nami's jacket and attacks Wapol. Wapol becomes Baku Baku Factory, eats Chess and Kuromarimo, then releases them and shoots Hiruluk's Jolly Roger. Luffy catches and raises the flag, charging Wapol and his subordinates. Chopper takes a rumble ball, fights Chess Marimo, dodges arrows, and smashes hammers using Brain Point. Luffy watches. Wapol sneaks into Drum Castle. The Ishi-20 revive Dalton, and he is helped by Usopp and Zoro toward the mountain. Inside, Chopper tells Kureha that Luffy calls him a friend. Nami grabs a coat to escape. Wapol chases her and tries to eat her, but Luffy stops him. Nami scolds Luffy for damaging her jacket. Wapol looks for the armory to eat its weapons, but finds the key missing, running up the stairs with Luffy following. At the castle dome, Wapol shows the Royal Drum Crown 7-shot Blick Blick cannon, but finds it empty. Only snowbirds fly out. Outside, everyone watch via the ropeway. Dalton carries dynamite, ready to destroy the castle if needed. Luffy catches Wapol's attack with his rubber fingers and fires him upward with Gomu Gomu no Ogon, leaving Hiruluk's flag waving on the castle. Luffy reunites with Zoro, Usopp, Vivi, and Dalton. Chopper hides behind a tree, recognized by Dalton for his bravery. Villagers call him a monster, but Luffy declares him a new crewmate. Luffy chases him to officially join. Kureha treats the wounded and negotiates the armory key with Nami. Chopper hesitates but finally joins the Straw Hats, moved by Luffy's acceptance. Chopper rushes to tell Kureha, but she immediately starts yelling at him, asking how he could even think of leaving. She insists he could never want to be a pirate. He's just a reindeer and a doctor. He can't abandon his duties. Kureha throws weapons at him, and Chopper flees with Kureha in hot pursuit. Using Kureha's sleigh, Chopper carries the Straw Hats down the ropeway, astonishing the villagers along the way. Kureha confides in Dalton that she hates saying goodbye, her eyes welling with tears. Hiruluk's dream finally comes true. As the villagers fire the cannons, the snow turns pink, like falling sakura petals. Chopper and the villagers are deeply moved to tears. On the Going Merry, the crew enjoys Drum Island's Sakura effect. Luffy entertains everyone, and Chopper warms up to his new friends. He talks to animals, and Nami notes his medical skills from Kureha. The crew teases him, but he begins to enjoy being part of the group. Back on Drum Island, Kureha and Dalton talk about the kingdom's future. Dalton recalls Vivi's father, King Cobra, and Wapol's past misdeeds, respecting Vivi's dignity. The Ishi-20 pledge loyalty to Dalton. A messenger delivers Luffy's wanted poster to Dalton. A man named Ace asks them to tell Luffy if he comes this way, he will be waiting for him in Alabasta for 10 days. Kureha remarks that the will of D lives on. The next day, Chopper sits at the bar with Luffy, amazed by the ocean. A giant bird swoops down. Luffy plays with it and then gives it to Sanji as food. Nami reminds everyone they are heading to Alabasta. The crew explains their mission: return Vivi to stop Crocodile's coup. Vivi describes Baroque Works' hierarchy: 5 officer-agent pairs, 8 frontier agents, and thousands of subordinates. Luffy is excited to fight Crocodile. Meanwhile, Mr. 2 punishes the navigator for failing to kill Mr. 3. Crocodile and Miss All Sunday discuss the threat to Alabasta. Later, Luffy and Usopp save Mr. 2 from drowning. While waiting for his ship, he shows his main Know My Power, which lets him copy anyone's face he touches. Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper are amazed, and Vivi notices he has copied her father. Later, Mr. 2's ship arrives, showing he is a Baroque Works officer. To avoid confusion, the crew wraps bandages around their arms so he cannot copy them. Arriving at Alabasta, Nami urges good behavior, but Luffy runs off to find food. Vivi explains she plans to go to Yuba, where the rebel army is, but the only way is across the desert. At the restaurant, the young man from earlier sits at a plate of food. Everyone thinks he is dead from a venomous bite, but he wakes, wipes his face, and keeps eating. After dozing again, he asks Yoshimoto about Luffy. Smoker arrives, notices the commotion, and identifies the man as Portgas D. Ace, 2nd Division commander of the Whitebeard Pirates, surprising everyone. Ace explains he is searching for his brother, Luffy. Luffy runs through Nanohana following food smells. Smoker plans to capture Ace but focuses on Luffy instead. Using Gomu Gomu no Rocket, Luffy smashes the restaurant and surrounding walls to get food. He eats quickly as Ace apologizes to a family for the mess. Smoker recognizes Luffy from Logetown and chases him. Luffy, knowing he cannot beat Smoker alone, searches for his crew while Smoker orders Tashigi to track the Straw Hats. Luffy arrives to everyone with Smoker close behind. Ace blocks Smoker's attack with Hyken, showing he has eaten the Mera Mera no Mi, the flame fruit. Ace tells Luffy to run while he holds off Smoker. Luffy announces to his crew that Ace is his brother, shocking them. The crew escapes to the Going Merry as Ace fights Smoker. Nami asks about Ace's relation to Luffy, and he confirms it. They reach the ship and load supplies, but Luffy is missing. Luffy waits in an alley, unsure where the crew went. Ace greets him from a roof and invites Luffy and the crew to join the Whitebeard Pirates, but Luffy refuses. On Smoker's ship, Mr. 11 is tied to the mast. Billions try to get promoted by capturing Ace, but when Mr. 11 asks to be untied, they shoot him instead. They hear Ace is in town and see a chance for promotion. Luffy and Ace look for the crew, unaware Billions surround them. A fight breaks out, but Luffy defeats the leader with Gomu Gomu no Bazooka. Spotting the ship, Luffy stretches his arms to reach it. Ace arrives in his boat and destroys 5 approaching ships with Hyken attacks. Smoker questions Tashigi about Vivi, but concludes she seems friendly with the Straw Hats. He senses something big is coming. On the Going Merry, Usopp, Luffy, and Chopper toast to Ace joining them, but he declines, saying he seeks Blackbeard for killing a crewmate. Nami notes they are going to Yuba, the same place as Ace. Vivi explains the route, and they all toast together. On shore, Vivi gives Karoo a letter for his father about Baroque Works plans. Karoo leaves quickly to deliver it. On the ship, Ace warns Zoro that Crocodile may have bigger plans. The crew reaches the desert. Chopper notes the heat, and Nami says it is over 50 degrees Celsius. Vivi warns that skin exposed to the sun will burn. Sanji complains about their clothes but follows. Zoro spots Kung Fu dugongs in the water. Luffy mistakes them for seals, fights them, and learns they can't cross the desert. They say goodbye. At Eromeru, Vivi explains it is now a ghost town. Dance powder caused droughts called the King's Miracle. Luffy destroys a building in anger, eager to continue. Later, he makes the crew play Rock, Paper, Hami to decide who carries equipment. At the rocks, Luffy finds moaning birds and rushes to Chopper for help. Returning, they find Waragi birds have stolen their things. Luffy chases the birds, and carnivorous plants swallow him briefly. He saves a camel named Matsu, who carries Nami and Vivi through the desert. The crew continues. On the way to Yuba Oasis, Vivi plans to meet the rebel army. Luffy, Usopp, and Sanji fight over water. Nami asks Vivi about the rebels. Vivi tells events from 11 years ago. Young Koza confronted King Cobra over a drought. Toto intervened, and the king promised to help. Vivi sees Koza running, and later he becomes the Suna Suna clan's assistant leader, forming a close bond with her family. Koza protects Vivi from kidnappers, gets injured, and praised by Cobra. He leaves to help build Yuba, telling Vivi to be a great princess. Vivi explains to Nami that Koza leads the rebel army. Before leaving, Ace gives Luffy a paper, promising to meet next at the Pirates Summit. Luffy treasures it, and Nami sews it into his hat. Vivi notes that Yuba is just beyond a distant rock. In Crocodile's lair, he and Miss All Sunday discuss their plan. She says everything is ready and they can act in 2 days. Crocodile is happy and mentions agents from Spider Cafe will meet them in Rain Base. At Spider Cafe, the agents gather, but Mr. 1 is missing. The others want to leave. Mr. 2 and his men dance, but Mr. 1 bursts through the wall, knocking over one of them. A fight starts, but Miss Doublefinger stops it, saying they must go to Rain Base to meet the boss. They leave in a carriage. Luffy and the crew arrive at Yuba, now ruined by a sandstorm. The town is empty. The only resident is the founder Todo, who recognizes Vivi. She realizes he is the same man from her childhood. His son leads the rebel army. Todo is loyal to the crown and regrets his son's rebellion. Vivi and Todo share a strong bond. The group stays in Yuba overnight. Todo tells how prosperous the town once was before the drought. Luffy learns that Todo was tasked by Cobra to watch the land and finds a way to stop the sandstorm. At Rain Base, the officer agents learn their leader is Mr. Zero, Crocodile, and that they must overthrow Alabasta. Mr. 3 reports the Straw Hats are alive. Crocodile punishes him by dropping him into a banana wani pit. Miss All Sunday orders the rebel army to eliminate everyone there. The Straw Hats head to Kataraya, but Luffy stops them. He tells Vivi his plan to defeat Crocodile and calls her plan to stop the rebellion naive. They argue, but Vivi says she will risk herself only. Luffy urges her to trust friends and fight together. Moved to tears, Vivi agrees and shows a map marking Alubarna, Katoria, and Rain Base, the warlord's base a day away. On the way, Usopp asks for water, but Luffy refuses since Todo filled it all night. At the rebel army base in Katareya, a boy wants to fight with the rebels, but Koza refuses, explaining that most fight only out of duty. He plans to gather weapons from all rebel towns before attacking Alubarna. In Alubarna, Chaka urges King Cobra to act against the rebels. Cobra refuses, recalling the dance powder incident, and wants to find who is behind it first. While Chaka and Pell discuss, the palace guard informs them that Karoo has returned. They rush to see Karoo and find Cobra reading the letter Vivi wrote, informing him that Crocodile is who is trying to destroy Alabasta. Preparations start. Chaka organizes the war council. Pell scouts ahead. Meanwhile, Luffy's group reaches Rain Base and tries to hide, but Luffy and Usopp loudly enter a bar next to Smoker and Tashigi. They flee, chased by Marines, splitting up to regroup at Rain Dinner's casino. Chopper, returning from the restroom, notices everyone has separated. Vivi and Zoro are chased, but Zoro lets her go ahead. They all meet at Rain Dinners, with Zoro and Luffy avoiding Smoker. Inside the casino, Crocodile and Miss All Sunday learn they are there. Luffy's group notices Vivi is missing, and Miss All Sunday sends everyone to the VIP room. A trapdoor drops Luffy's group and Smoker into a prison cell. In the cell, Luffy feels weak. Smoker hits him with his Sea Stone Jitta, stopping his devil fruit powers. As Zoro is about to fight, Crocodile interrupts, telling them to cooperate until a guest arrives. Outside, Vivi fights Baroque Works agents but is saved by Pell. Miss All Sunday appears, overpowers both, and takes Vivi to the casino. Inside, Vivi attacks Crocodile, but he is untouchable, having eaten the Sunasuna no Mi, sand fruit. He tells her to sit as the party starts. Operation Utopia, the plan to take over Alabasta, begins. Crocodile explains his plan. The king is kidnapped and replaced by Mr. 2, who orders Nanohana destroyed. Koza intervenes but is wounded. Mr. 1 and Miss Doublefinger crash into Nanohana on a pirate ship. Citizens flee, the royal army burns the city, and the rebels are blamed. Koza leads his forces forward, finding an armory ship, calling it Divine Guidance. At the palace, Chaka is alarmed. The Straw Hats stay imprisoned. Crocodile taunts Vivi with a key, but it falls and is eaten by a banana wani. Crocodile gives them 1 hour as water fills the cell. Crocodile gets a call from Sanji. Vivi leaves to get help, while the casino bridge collapses to block Baroque Works. Chopper distracts Crocodile as Sanji frees the crew. Smoker explains Miss All Sunday's long-standing bounty. Sanji fights Banana Gators to recover the key. Mr. 3 emerges from an alligator, giving the Straw Hats an idea to escape. Crocodile and Miss All Sunday return to find the cell empty. Luffy tells Zoro to save Smoker, and Smoker then allows the crew to escape. They flee east while Smoker calls off the chase and sends reinforcements from nearby marine warships to Alabasta. Chopper and Matsuge ride a giant crab, following Nami's perfume. Matsuge is friends with many animals, including the crab. The Straw Hats head toward Alubarna. Crocodile's hook grabs Vivi and pulls her away. Luffy quickly switches places with her and follows the hook to Crocodile. Before fighting, he tells the others to go straight to Alubarna and take Vivi home. Luffy promises to meet them there and faces Crocodile and Miss All Sunday. Luffy praises Vivi's selflessness. Crocodile mocks her belief and asks if Luffy agrees. He does, but says he will stop Crocodile as Vivi's friend. Crocodile threatens him and calls Miss All Sunday by her real name, Nico Robin, who leaves claiming she is going to Alubarna. Crocodile sets a 3-minute timer and begins the fight. Luffy attacks, but Crocodile turns to sand to avoid it. Luffy's attacks pass through him until a direct punch enrages Crocodile. Crocodile counters with Desert Spada and other sand attacks. Luffy drinks water from Yuba to recover, then attacks Crocodile's head with Gomu Gomu no Baku Baku. Crocodile prepares Sable Sandstorm to destroy Yuba. Luffy is pierced by his hook. Crocodile throws Luffy into quicksand and heads to Alubarna. Meanwhile, Smoker orders Tashigi to decide whether to follow the Straw Hats or help the Royal Army. The Straw Hats to cross a river to Alubarna. Hami runs on water, encouraged by Nami's dancing. Halfway across, he sinks but is saved from a sea monster by the Kung Fu Dugongs, who follow Luffy's orders. They reach shore and see Karoo and the super spot-built duck troops approaching. Luffy struggles in the quicksand, but Nico Robin saves him with her Hana Hana no Mi powers, returning his hat. Pell, still injured, tells Robin to help Luffy while she leaves with Vivi. Luffy, weak and needing meat, rides with Pell toward Alubarna. At the palace, the royal guards prepare for battle. Igaram is still alive. Luffy, despite injuries, wants Crocodile to pay for his actions. The rebel army marches toward Alubarna. Baroque works elites spot Vivi and the Straw Hats approaching on ducks. The Straw Hats split into groups, making it hard for enemies to target them. Vivi and Karoo stay outside Alubarna to stop the rebel and royal armies from fighting. Koza sees them but thinks he is imagining things. A cannon fires early, creating chaos. Vivi is knocked down but saved by Karoo, who is trampled. Vivi cries and vows to stop the conflict. Usopp, disguised on a horse, is actually Mr. 2. Vivi tests him with the crew's bandage signal and confirms he is an enemy. Sanji wakes Usopp and Matsuge after a flashback shows how they used bandages for identification. Sanji fights through the rebel and royal army to reach Vivi, saying he fights only for the ladies. Chopper and Usopp fight Miss Merry Christmas and Mr. 4 using tricks and Mr. 4's dog Lasso. Usopp refuses to believe Luffy is dead, and together they defeat their enemies. Sanji encounters Mr. 2 and quickly overpowers him at first. However, Mr. 2 uses his ability to change his face into Nami's, causing Sanji to hesitate. When Sanji is about to strike, Sanji says there is something on Mr. 2's face. As Mr. 2 touches it, he changes back to his real face and Sanji defeats him. Meanwhile, Zoro and Nami face Mr. 1 and Miss Doublefinger. Nami tries to escape but is chased and studies Usopp's instructions for the climb attacked. As she learns the weapon's abilities, she uses Mirage Tempo to create illusions and prepare for a real fight. Crocodile has nailed Cobra to the palace walls. Vivi and Chaka cannot stop him. He demands the location of Pluton, a legendary weapon. Cobra is shocked and says he doesn't know if it exists. Crocodile admits he cannot fully confirm it either, but reveals a backup plan. A bomb is planted in the palace square, set to explode. Crocodile asks Cobra about the poneglyph. Cobra agrees to go with him. Enraged, Chaka prepares to attack Crocodile. Outside Alubarna, Sanji meets Usopp and Chopper, returns Usopp's goggles, and they head to the palace to help Vivi. Meanwhile, Nami, injured and bleeding, she creates a thundercloud and shocks her. When Miss Doublefinger attacks again, Nami uses Mirage Tempo to make illusions and hit her from behind. Remembering Tornado Tempo is a one-time move, she uses it despite her hurt leg, trapping Miss Doublefinger in a tornado and throwing her through buildings, winning the fight. Elsewhere, Zoro fights Mr. 1. He realizes Mr. 1's body is as hard as steel, and ordinary attacks cannot cut him. Zoro recalls his mentor's words. He adapts, senses the rhythm around him, locates his sword, cuts through a rock, and defeats Mr. 1 with a single sword strike. Exhausted, he worries if everyone else is safe. Tsumagari guards charge into the palace to save Cobra. He tells them not to risk their lives, but they insist. Crocodile offers to spare them if they leave, but they refuse. They drink hero water to gain strength, attack Crocodile, but he easily dodges. The guards collapse and die, enraging Chaka, who attacks Crocodile with his Inu Inu no Mi model jackal powers, but cannot hit him. Sanji, Chopper, and Usopp rush to the palace. Usopp cries thinking Luffy is dead while Chopper reassures him. Sanji smiles and asks if they really believed it. They insist Luffy is alive. Vivi finds Chaka bloodied, and a figure calls her. In Palace Square, 25 minutes remain until Crocodile's bomb explodes. Koza sees the dead Tsumagari guards, Chaka, Cobra nailed to the palace wall, and Crocodile controlling everything. Miss All Sunday mocks Koza, telling him to accept the worst. Koza realizes his father was right about Cobra, and demands the truth about Alabastus drought. Crocodile admits he and Baroque works caused all the suffering Koza blamed on Cobra. Cobra tells Koza to save as many citizens as possible, and Chaka warns him about the bomb. Crocodile strikes Chaka, seemingly killing him. Koza runs toward Palace Square, but Vivi pulls him down, urging him to think carefully. She explains warning everyone about the bomb would cause panic and stopping the rebellion is the priority. Crocodile attacks Vivi, but Chaka blocks him, giving them time to escape. Vivi commands the royal army to surrender. Koza orders the army to stop fighting and lowers his weapon. The rebel army sees the white flags and stops attacking. However, Baroque works agents disguised in the royal army shoot Koza multiple times. Crocodile creates a sandstorm, hiding the battlefield, letting infiltrators continue shooting and restarting the fight. Vivi and Koza try to stop the chaos, but their voices are drowned out. Chaka collapses from his wounds, and Cobra urges Vivi to run, but she refuses, determined to stop the bomb. Crocodile grabs her by the neck and hangs her over a cliff, mocking her for not warning the soldiers. Vivi insists she will never give up. Crocodile notes her 2-year spy work in Baroque works and drops her off the cliff. Luffy flies on Pell, catching Vivi before she hits the ground. She tells them about the bomb. The crew regroups. Luffy apologizes for losing to Crocodile and promises not to lose again, asking the others to handle other matters while he goes to fight Crocodile. Luffy punches Crocodile, making him bleed, and attacks again, finding his weakness. Water stops him from turning to sand. Crocodile tries to dehydrate Luffy's arm, but Luffy drinks water from a barrel, calling himself Water Luffy. He squirts water at Crocodile, letting his attacks hit. Miss All Sunday removes the stakes, impaling Cobra, and Dima Bianti lead her to the Poneglyph. Crocodile tells her to go. As they leave, Crocodile uses ground secco to dry the area, turning it into a desert. Luffy sprays water at him, but Crocodile absorbs it and keeps draining moisture from the palace. With 8 minutes left until the explosion, the Straw Hats rush to find the cannon. Meanwhile, Cobra wonders if Robin is really Miss All Sunday, whose name was famous 20 years ago. On the way to the Poneglyph, they encounter Tashigi and Marines. Robin disables some with her powers, and a Marine recognizes her as the 8-year-old who earned a 79 million bounty for sinking 6 ships. Tashigi sends her men to Palace Square and stays to fight Robin, who easily defeats her. In the palace, the lawn has turned to sand. Crocodile sneaks on Luffy, grabs him by the neck, and absorbs all water from his body, leaving him dehydrated. Crocodile says Luffy lost again. However, water Luffy had sprayed on Crocodile falls back, reviving him. Luffy recovers and searches for them. Luffy meets Tashigi and asks which way Crocodile went. She points the way, scolding herself as he rushes off. Near the tomb, Luffy collapses from bleeding and falls asleep. Robin and Cobra find the Poneglyph. Crocodile reaches them and demands Robin read it. She reads Alabasta's history, not Pluton's location. Angered, Crocodile says she has been useful in Baroque works for 4 years but must die for breaking her promise. Robin tries to attack him but fails. Cobra starts a timer that will destroy the tomb, planning to kill Crocodile and Robin to protect his country. Vivi injures her knee while searching for the bomb. She figures out where the bomb is and has Usopp call the rest of the Straw Hats. Luffy wakes up and starts looking for Crocodile. Crocodile tells Cobra he can turn the tomb's stone to sand and bury them all. Vivi and Usopp are chased by Baroque Works agents and use a chalkboard to distract them. Luffy finds Crocodile, Cobra, and the badly hurt Robin. He demands Crocodile return Vivi's country and hits him twice. Using his own blood, Luffy stops Crocodile from turning into sand. Crocodile reveals his hook is filled with poison. Zoro finds Marines from Tashigi's group, who point him toward the city center. Vivi and Usopp keep running while Tashigi stops their pursuers. Nami and Chopper reach Vivi and Usopp with only 2 minutes left before the bomb explodes. Luffy faces Crocodile while Vivi searches for Pell, believing he may be the only one fast enough to stop the cannon. In the clock tower, Mr. Seven and Miss Father's Day stand guard. Nami then comes up with a plan using one of Usopp's devices. Working together, they launch her through the tower. With only seconds to spare, Vivi manages to cut the bomb's fuse. Luffy is poisoned by Crocodile's hook and starts going numb. Vivi realizes the cannon is also a timed bomb. Pell arrives, remembers his duty as the guardian of Alabasta, and flies the bomb far away. It explodes in the sky and he sacrifices himself. The shockwave hits the city, but the civil war continues. Vivi screams from the bell tower, begging everyone to stop. Nami tells the Straw Hats they must end the fight no matter what. Underground, the tomb collapses. Luffy gets up, shocking Crocodile. Luffy finally defeats Crocodile, smashing him through the ruins and into the air. The Straw Hats and Vivi see Crocodile fall, but the war still goes on. Then rain begins, for the first time in 3 years, helping calm everyone. Vivi's cries are finally heard, and the fighting stops. People are still angry about past events, but Chaka orders the royal army to stand down. Igaram appears with Kappa, who proves Baroque works caused everything. The people lower their weapons. The Straw Hats meet King Cobra carrying the hurt but alive Luffy. Cobra explains Luffy carried both of them to safety and got an antidote for the poison, though he still needs more care. The Straw Hats prepare to return to the palace in secret. People gather around the defeated Crocodile as Tashigi and the Marines arrive. Tashigi says her men captured Baroque work ships carrying dance powder, proving Crocodile's crimes. She removes his warlord title and arrests him, even though he is unconscious. Koza struggles with the rebellion's actions and Crocodile's betrayal, but Cobra tells everyone to move forward and help Alabasta recover. On the coast, Hina accuses Smoker of using dance powder. Smoker denies it and says he did not want to ruin Cobra's plan to save his kingdom. He orders Hina to take the ship and Crocodile to Marine headquarters. Meanwhile, Tashigi tells her Marines to ignore the Straw Hats. That evening, the Straw Hats return to the palace to rest. Vivi watches the rain while Igaram enters and speaks about Pell, honoring his sacrifice. The next day at the port, Tashigi delivers Crocodile to Smoker and apologizes for letting Luffy escape. Smoker ignores it and tells her to become stronger if she doubts herself. Marine headquarters calls, giving credit to Smoker and Tashigi for capturing Crocodile. Hina says the world government wants to hide the Straw Hats' role, but Smoker angrily rejects the promotions. Dr. Honka is amazed by Chopper's medical skills, even after her 40 years of experience. Vivi takes care of Luffy while Karoo rests. Sanji and Usopp walk through the city, proud of the people rebuilding. And Zoro trains by balancing boulders. In the palace library, Cobra lets Nami take any books she wants. Chaka and the guards block Marines searching for Luffy and Zoro. Luffy wakes up hungry and sees his straw hat on the next bed, not knowing how badly injured he was. Terracotta, the royal chef, arrives to prepare a banquet for Luffy. She brings fruit, which he eats instantly. The Straw Hats enjoy a lively feast. Later, Cobra invites the Straw Hats to the baths. The women wash on one side while Nami and Vivi chat. The men try to peek, but Nami's happiness punch stops them. Nami says they should leave Alabasta that evening because Marines are probably looking for them. Cobra bows to the Straw Hats, thanking them as both a king and a father for saving Vivi. Nami and Vivi overhear him. That night, the Straw Hats prepare to leave. Luffy wants more food, but Zoro says they have to go. Chaka and Igaram receive new bounty posters. Luffy's is now 100 million berries, and Zoro's is 60 million berries. Igaram warns that Luffy cannot turn back after defeating a warlord. When he rushes to alert the Straw Hats, they have already left, leaving only Vivi behind. Vivi decides to go to the eastern harbor by 8 a.m., pondering whether to be a princess or a pirate. Earlier, Bon Kure contacts the Straw Hats via Den Den Mushi. He explains he moved the Going Merry to the upper Sandora River to protect it from the Marines and blocks all ports. The Straw Hats accept his help, wary but willing to trust him. Meanwhile, Marines Django and Full Body attempt to intercept them. Usopp fires a cannon, destroying both their ships. Bon Kure helps the Straw Hats escape, distracting the Marines with his Okama disguise. Vivi begins her farewell speech about her travels with the Straw Hats. The people recognize her, and she meets the crew at the harbor. She announces she will stay behind, but asks that if they meet again, she be considered part of their family. To avoid incriminating her, the Straw Hats silently raise their left arms in a cross mark, which Vivi and Karoo mirror. Hina reports the escape to Smoker, who seems pleased. Cobra continues Vivi's speech to the kingdom, and Chaka mourns Pell's death. Back in Yuba, Toto laughs, knowing the Straw Hats' full role in saving Alabasta. And Pell stands at his own grave, alive and well. The Marines continue to attack the Going Merry. Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji throw large pipes at the enemy ships, disabling them and making a quick escape. Smoker informs Tashigi of Luffy and Zoro's new bounties. The Straw Hats lament leaving Vivi behind, though Zoro jokes about it. The Alabasta saga ends with Robin suddenly appearing, shocking the crew. She explains that Luffy forced her to keep living when she wanted to die, and now she joins the crew. She reveals her past as an archaeologist from age 8, her involvement in killing, and other jobs. Nami is convinced by Jules, Sanji by her being a woman, while Usopp, Luffy, and Chopper play with her powers. Only Zoro remains wary but is briefly disarmed by her cheerfulness. The journey continues when a giant ship suddenly falls from the sky. The log pose suddenly points straight up, and Robin explains it's being pulled by a powerful magnetic field from a sky island. Exploring the sunken ship, they find an old map of a place called Skypiea. Through books and a skull, they learn the ship is the St. Brice, which left the Kingdom of Breeze in South Blue 208 years ago. Curious, the crew decides to salvage it. While salvaging, they encounter pirates led by Masira, who claims that all sunken ships belong to him. As he raises the ship, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji attack his crew underwater. Masira comes down to stop them, but a giant sea turtle swallows the ship. Everyone escapes, but suddenly the sky darkens and 3 huge shadows appear. Scared, the pirates flee. Robin takes an eternal pose to the nearby island of Jaya to gather more information. Elsewhere, the pirate Roshio wins a poker game against Bellamy, who accuses him of cheating. Bellamy stabs Roshio's hand and shoots him. In Mocktown, Nami warns Luffy and Zoro that they must not fight, no matter what happens. They meet several strange pirates and end up at a hotel. There, Sarquis of the Bellamy Pirates insults them and gives them money for new clothes. They leave, and the Bellamy Pirates see Luffy's bounty. In a bar, they unknowingly meet Blackbeard. Bellamy then barges in looking for Luffy and wanting to test him. Bellamy punches Luffy and Nami asks about Sky Island, but Bellamy mocks them, claiming that chasing dreams like gold or the One Piece is meaningless compared to real power. Nami tells them to fight back, but Luffy tells Zoro they're not going to fight. Bellamy attacks Luffy and Zoro and others throw objects, but the crew doesn't fight back. They are laughed out of the bar and later meet Blackbeard again, who praises them for not wasting energy on the unworthy and openly supports Luffy's dreams. Back on the ship, Robin has found useful information. A man named Mont Blanc Cricket may know how to reach Sky Island. On the way, they encounter Shu, an orangutan pirate and Masira's brother, but escape. At Cricket's empty home, they find a book about Mont Blanc Noland, Liar Noland. Sanji explains it's a fairy tale from North Blue. Noland discovered a city of gold, told the king, but when they returned, the city was gone. The king executed Noland for lying, though he claimed the island sank. Cricket, a descendant of Noland, searches the ocean daily for proof, even injuring himself. Chopper treats him, and the crew meets Masira and Shuju again, who help Cricket as the Saruyama Alliance. Cricket explains the only way to reach Sky Island is via Knockup Stream, a giant ocean geyser. He sends the Straw Hats to find a Southbird, which always points south. Meanwhile, the Suriyama Alliance upgrades the Going Merry to survive Knockup Stream. Hearing Cricket found gold, Bellamy attacks him and his team, severely injuring them using his spring-like devil fruit powers. When the crew returns with the Southbird, Luffy decides to reclaim the gold. In Mocktown, new bounties arrive. Luffy has 100 million, Zoro 60 million, while Bellamy only 55 million. Bellamy dismisses them as fake. Luffy challenges Bellamy to return the gold. Bellamy attacks using his devil fruit, but Luffy doesn't fight back at first, letting Bellamy use his ultimate move, Spring Hopper. Finally, Luffy loses patience and knocks Bellamy out with a single punch. The terrified pirates realize Luffy's bounty is real and flee. Luffy takes the gold back to Cricket's house while the remaining Bellamy pirates are too scared to fight. Hearing about Luffy's bounty, Blackbeard and his crew plan to strike. Elsewhere, Ace boards Buggy's ship to help search for Luffy. Shanks tries to contact Whitebeard, but his letter is torn up. Whitebeard tells Rockstar to bring Shanks to him in person. Shanks orders his crew to prepare for the meeting. At Mary Joyce, the Marines and the Seven Warlords gather to discuss replacing Crocodile. Fleet Admiral Sengoku is surprised to see Kuma and Doflamingo there. Mihawk also arrives, and just as the meeting begins, Lafitte from the Blackbeard Pirates shows up to recommend his captain as Crocodile's replacement. No one has heard of him yet, but Lafitte says they are working on it. Back at the Straw Hats, they return Cricket's gold and head for Knockup Stream, guided by the Suriyama Alliance and the Southbird. They are confronted by Blackbeard pirates, showing their new bounties. But before a fight starts, the Straw Hats are swept into Knockup Stream, sent flying into the White Sea, while the Blackbeard pirates' raft is destroyed. Riding the stream, the Straw Hats reach Skypiea, a sea of clouds. They are attacked by a masked man on the clouds, but are saved by an old knight, Ganfall, riding a bird named Pierre. Ganfall explains the thin air made them weak, gives them a whistle for help, and the crew continues. They arrive at Heaven's Gate, the entrance to Skypiea, where a fee of 1 billion extols per person is demanded. The crew doesn't know the currency, and the gatekeeper, Amazon, warns them nothing. They enter Skypiea and reach Angel Island, meeting Canis and her father, Pagaya. Nami tests a device called a Waver and rides to a nearby forested island called Upper Yard, a forbidden sacred ground. Luffy wants to follow her, claiming it's for adventure. At Upper Yard, Nami sees Enel's priest chasing a treasure hunter, but Enel instantly destroys him with a massive lightning beam. Nami realizes the priests are tracking her and rushes back. On Angel Island's beach, the crew meets the White Berets, Skypiea's law enforcers, who declare the Straw Hats criminals. The fee for illegal entry is 10 billion extols per person, and minor actions like snoring raise their crime level. When Nami returns, she crashes the Waver into McKinley, the chief, and the White Berets attack but are easily defeated by Luffy. This escalates the crew to Class 2 criminals, to be handled by the priests. The crew prepares to leave with Nami, Chopper, Robin, and Zoro boarding the ship, while Luffy, Sanji, and Usopp gather supplies. Suddenly, the ship is grabbed by a super-fast shrimp, carrying them to Upper Yard. Luffy, Sanji, and Usopp head to Lovely Street to get a boat to rescue them. Canis lends them her dial-powered ship. Luffy asks why he has been trembling since leaving the house, and she reveals she did everything according to God Enel's will. Enel fires a massive beam at Canis, but Ganfall saves her, taking them out of Enel's range. Despite Enel's show of power, the three pirates continue to Upper Yard without trouble. Meanwhile, Nami, Zoro, Robin, and Chopper are on the ship above a sacrificial altar surrounded by shark-infested clouds. Zoro, Robin, and Nami decide to explore Upper Yard, swinging to land using vines while Chopper stays to guard the ship. They cautiously navigate the Milky Road, a winding path of cloud currents filled with hidden dangers and shifting obstacles, forcing the crew to constantly adapt and work together. They reach a hand-shaped statue with 4 paths: Ordeal of Swamp, Iron, String, and Balls. Luffy chooses the Ordeal of Balls, landing in a forest with floating cloud balls containing snakes, explosives, flowers, and other surprises. The priest Satori appears and attacks, using Mantra, a strange power that lets him sense and predict his enemies' moves. Luffy and the others struggle to anticipate his sudden strikes, realizing that Satori can almost read their intentions before they even act, making each dodge a desperate gamble. After a tough battle, the crew is nearly defeated, but they counter his attacks. Luffy grabs Satori and Sanji defeats him with a new move, Konkase. At Gonfal's house, he tells Konis and Pagaya about the ongoing war between the Shandia warriors and the Skypeans over Upper Yard. Enel's takeover ended any hope of peace. Meanwhile, Priest Shura attacks Chopper at the altar. Chopper blows the whistle to call Ganfal, who fights Shura. When Shura uses the Ordeal of String, Ganfal and Chopper fall into the clouds but survive. Zoro's group realizes that Upper Yard is part of the lost city of gold from Noland's Tale, sent into the sky by the Knock-Up Stream. Chopper wakes to find Ganfal and Pierre saved by giant southbirds. At the Shandia tribe, Isa reveals that Satori and Ganfal have been defeated. Wiper, Shandia leader, decides to reclaim Upper Yard and fights the remaining priests. When one of his strongest warriors, Kamakuri, is defeated, Wiper orders a retreat. Nami, Zoro, and Robin return to the altar and Luffy's group arrives. The crew camps in the forest to prepare. The Straw Hats piece together that Upper Yard is the lost city of gold. They plan to take treasure before returning to the Blue Sea. Nami combines maps of Jaya and Skypiea to locate the city in the skull's right eye, according to Noland's log. Luffy starts a bonfire to celebrate, much to Nami's annoyance, and the crew dances with wolves in an Eve of Gold festival. Ganfal regains consciousness and explains to Robin that objects from the Blue Sea sent by Knock-Up Stream are highly valuable, especially Varth, soil that grows plants better than clouds. Upper Yard was once a holy land, leading to war with the Shandia. Later, Usopp sees a figure fixing the Going Merry through fog. By morning, all Shura's damage is gone. Nami plans for Luffy, Zoro, Chopper, and Robin to head to the Gold City, while she, Usopp, and Sanji take the Going Merry and Ganfal out of Upper Yard. Meanwhile, Wiper punishes Rocky for a mistake, but Kamakuri stops him. Wiper orders a final offensive to reclaim Upper Yard. Enel appears, telling the priests they may use their ordeals anywhere on the island. As the Shandia and Straw Hats enter Upper Yard, the survival game begins. Luffy's group heads for the Gold City but encounters a giant python, separating them with only Robin on the right path. On the Going Merry, Ganfal explains Upper Yard's history, the Shandia people, Enel's takeover 6 years ago, and demonstrates the use of dials as weapons, including the impact dial. The Shandia encounter Shura and are caught in his Ordeal of String, but Wiper avoids it and defeats Shura using a reject dial, an old version of the impact dial that multiplies power but hurts the user. As the warriors split up, Enel releases his 50 divine soldiers led by Yama, predicting that only 5 participants, including himself, will remain in the survival game. Zoro fights the Shandia warrior Bram and wins with his sons and Sakai. Luffy meets Wiper again, but their fight is interrupted when a giant python swallows Luffy. Chopper defeats Priest Gatatu, who falls into the Blue Sea due to his own Ordeal of Swamp. Robin defeats Yama at Ancient Ruins. On the Going Merry, Enel confronts Ganfal, shocking Sanji and Usopp unconscious with his devil fruit powers. Satori's brothers, Hotori and Couture, arrive for revenge but are defeated by Nami and Ganfal. Isa, the Shandia girl with Mantra, tries to reach Upper Yard in a dial boat but is picked up by Konis and Pagaya. Ganfal leaves the ship to investigate Enel's words, leaving Nami his impact dial. Konis and Pagaya create a shortcut to meet Nami with a new waiver. Meanwhile, Zoro accidentally attracts a southbird. Inside the python, Luffy finds golden ruins but can't find a way out. Enel attacks Kamakuri, accidentally knocking out many warriors. 2 hours into the survival game, only 25 participants remain. Robin reaches the City of Gold but finds no gold. Chopper climbs a giant jack but is wounded by Priest Ohm. On the Going Merry, Nami chases Isa but is attacked by the python. They escape deeper into the jungle using the waiver. The Southbird carries Zoro through the air but drops him when the python attacks. Wiper reaches Ganfal, who explains God's shrine is destroyed. Zoro lands and fights Priest Ohm, and defeating him. Nami, Isa, and some soldiers arrive. Ganfal and Pierre save them but are eaten by the python. The group reunites with Luffy. In the Gold City ruins, Robin meets Enel, who has taken all the gold but is interested in the Golden Bell. At the Going Merry, Enel attacks, leaving Caunus to warn Angel Island. Clouds are destroyed, sending Zoro, Wiper, and the Python falling. Ganfall and Nami escape, leaving Luffy, Isa, and Pierre behind. With 3 minutes left, 6 survivors remain. They unanimously choose Enel to leave. Enel explains that humans living in the sky are unnatural, and that he plans to move them to a realm of infinite size, his true natural domain. Ganfall attacks but is defeated, leaving 5 survivors: Luffy, Wiper, Zoro, Robin, and Nami. Enel targets Robin for the Golden Bell. Zoro fights back, and Wiper uses Sea Stone in his reject dial to stop Enel temporarily. But Enel revives himself. He defeats everyone, leaving only Nami, who follows him. Enel escapes on the Arc Maxim, a flying ship powered by the city's gold. Meanwhile, Luffy escapes from the Python and finds Enel's victims. Robin, barely conscious, explains the situation, and Isa uses her mantra to guide Luffy to him. At Angel Beach, Caunus tries to convince everyone to leave the island, but is called a heretic. She shouts that Enel is not God, and everyone runs in fear. When nothing happens to her, they realize she is right. The White Berets restore order, and Caunus hurries back to Upper Yard to lead the Straw Hats out. Luffy reaches Enel and fights him. Enel is shocked that his lightning has no effect on Luffy, and that Luffy can bypass his Logia powers to hurt him. Enel changes tactics, heating his staff, teleporting, and using mantra to predict Luffy's moves. He uses the Arc Maxim to start Death Paya, forming massive thunderclouds to amplify his power and destroy the islands. Luffy gains the upper hand until Enel attaches a large gold ball to his arm, knocking him back onto Upper Yard. Nami prepares to fight, using Climattack attacks to deflect Enel's weaker bolts. Sanji and Usopp wake up, and Sanji declares he will save Nami. He forces Usopp to help her onto the ship. Usopp distracts Enel, while Nami uses the waiver to jump to the giant jack area, landing a hit. Enel tries to attack them, but Sanji blocks it, allowing their escape. Sanji got knocked out Ajin. The ship begins to explode as Sanji sabotaged its machines, letting the Arc Maxim fly. As Enel fixes the ship, Usopp climbs and jumps off with Sanji. Enel keeps the ship flying with emergency dials and rains, lightning down on the land. In the ruins of Shandor, Luffy recovers and, with Isa and Pierre, heads toward the giant jack. Leaving Isa and Pierre with Robin, who brings the others to the surface, Luffy climbs the giant jack with the gold ball still on his arm. Meanwhile, Wiper, Zoro, and Ganfall wake up, and Nami tells everyone to go to the Going Merry. She uses her waiver to try to reach Luffy and get him to leave as well. Wiper remembers a story from his childhood. 400 years ago, Admiral Mont Blanc Noland caught a huge fish to feed his starving crew and survived a storm, hearing a mysterious bell. On the island, a dying priest claimed the Shandia were cursed and a girl must be offered on the sacrificial altar. Moose volunteered, while her mother wept. Young Cedo cursed his fate as Calgara passed by. Noland's crew reached the shore, found a south bird whose bell-like sound matched what Noland had heard, signaling the island was inhabited. They found Sato, diagnosed him with tree fever, and gathered Konine to heal him and the village. At the sacrificial altar, Moose was tied up as a priest prayed. A giant snake, Kashigami, approached, but Noland jumped in, climbed the altar, and killed it, comforting Moose. Villagers were furious and demanded punishment. Calgara attacked Noland, who introduced himself as a North Sea explorer and defended progress. Calgara speared Noland, holding his crew hostage, insisting all intruders be killed. Noland argued sacrifices were wrong and promised to lift the curse if villagers swore never to offer humans again. The Shandia chief gave him 1 day to prove it. His crew and Moose worried in cages, while Sato recovered, pondering Noland's words about progress. In the forest, Noland celebrated finding a Kona tree. An earthquake frightened villagers, and Calgara mocked Noland for being trapped. Villagers, angry over the quake and Kashigami's death, tried to execute Noland's crew, but Sato stopped them. At sunset, Moose and the crew were led to the altar. Noland confronted Calgara about human sacrifices. A python appeared. Noland revealed he had a cure for tree fever, shaming Calgara for risking the village. The python attacked Noland but was killed by Calgara, who asked if the village could be saved. Noland's crew gave the cure, delighting the villagers. Calgara reunited with Moose and Noland recovered. Later, they met Kashigami's grandson, a smaller python. Noland and Calgara bonded, and the crew admired their cooperation. Calgara led them to Shandora. In the Golden City, villagers rang the bell. The crew could take treasure, but Calgara explained the real treasures were a poneglyph and the golden bell honoring ancestors. Noland admired the bell he heard during the storm. The crew shared knowledge and seeds, but villagers still distrusted them, calling them killers of gods. On the beach, the bell was silent. Noland planned more work and went to confront Calgara, who angrily attacked him. The crew sat by a campfire, upset the villagers turned against them. Moose explained the crew cut sacred trees, angering villagers despite helping them. The next day, Noland learned of the villagers' anger and decided to leave the treasure. Moose pleaded with Calgara to forgive Noland, explaining their actions were to save the village. Villagers were stunned. Calgara ran to the beach, seeking forgiveness. As Noland's crew left, the golden bell rang again. Villagers and Cedo cried, and Calgara and Noland wept, promising to meet again. Back in Lavneal, Noland told the king his story. 5 years later, the king sent an army to Shandora. Meanwhile, Calgara and a grown Cedo kept the bell ritual. The island rose from the knock-up stream. Noland, the king, and the army arrived to find destruction. Execution loomed, but his crew defended him. The Shandia village launched skyward, the golden bell rang, and the sky people declared it holy. Calgara fought to protect the village, always hoping to reunite with Noland. In the present, Luffy climbs the giant jack and meets Nami. She tells him to leave, but he says he must ring the bell so Cricket and everyone will know the city of gold is in the sky. Enel reaches the top and uses his ultimate technique, Rego, destroying Angel Island and making a huge hole in the clouds. At the Golden Bell, he creates an even bigger Rego to destroy all of Skypiea. Nami sees everyone is still near the giant jack, so she sends instructions to cut it down. Despite Zoro's efforts, it stays standing. Hearing why Luffy wants to ring the bell, Wiper uses his reject dial to fell the plant. Nami and Luffy blast it with full power, flying toward Enel. Luffy pushes Nami onto a cloud and swings into the Rego. As the Skypeans and Shandia pray for the true god, using the golden ball, Luffy draws all the electricity from Rego into himself and completely destroys it. Even as Enel uses all his power, Luffy crashes Enel into the bell, ringing it across the islands. The resonant sound echoes through Skypiea, signaling hope and the end of the long-standing war between the Skypeans and the Shandia, and moving even the most hardened warriors to tears. Anjaya, Cricket, and the Suriyama Alliance hear it. Cricket explains the giants at the start were actually shadows cast by people in the sky, confirmed by a giant shadow of Luffy in a victorious pose. Cricket cries, relieved the city existed and that Luffy is safe. For the Skypeans, the ringing of the golden bell signals the end of the long war between the Shandia and the Skypeans. Enel, his arc, and the bell fall into the sea clouds. Upper Yard clears and everyone gathers. The Shandia warriors recover, Pagaya is alive, and those forced to build Arc Maxime are reunited with their families. Wiper wakes and wants to fight the Sky People for Upper Yard, but the chief explains peace is the priority. Wiper sees everyone celebrating. Enel recovers and flies away toward the fairy of Earth, which is actually the moon, leaving the Skypeans to keep their land. The bell is found in the fallen giant jack, and the Shandia and Skypeans work together to lift it, showing their unity. On the bell's base is a poneglyph. Robin deciphers the poneglyph, learning information about the ancient weapon Poseidon. The Shandia no longer need to protect it or fight. Robin also finds another message from Gold D. Roger, revealing the Rio poneglyph is on Laugh-Tale. The Shandia thank the Straw Hats by offering one of the Belfry's pillars, which Robin accepts. Usopp trades rubber bands, claiming they match the material that defeated Enel. The Sky Island saga ends with the Straw Hats stealing bags of gold from the sleeping snake. Seeing Robin with the pillar, the Straw Hats think they've been caught, so they run. With Caunus and Pagaya leading, they reach Cloud End to return to the Blue Sea. Ganfall is restored as the god of Skypiea, and the Straw Hats safely descend back to the Blue Sea with the help of an octopus balloon. If you want more recaps like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know what anime you want to see next.